Chapter 418. Thank you, Senior, Jiang Chun said softly. He came to the bald old man's side and waved at Ji Chongyang and the others with a smile. Goodbye, you. Ji Chongyang was furious. Today, the yin-yang emissaries and the left and right emissaries were here, but the Celestial Tribe's patriarch had appeared. Even if they worked together, they would not be a match for the bald old man. It was even to the extent that once they attacked, with the bald old man's strength, he would probably be able to crush all of them with a single slap. In that case, they had mustered so many people to come here today. But they were afraid that they would have to return dejectedly. However, Ji Chongyang and the others could not do anything against the bald old man. In the end, it was because Lin Lang Wentian was not here. If he was here, the bald old man would not dare to protect Jiang Chun. Let's be clear. How long do you plan to protect this person? The left emissary said in a low voice. Are you going to protect him forever? The martial pavilion must kill this person. Although the Celestial Tribe is strong, I don't think you want to start a war with the martial pavilion. The left emissary said. The bald old man nodded calmly and said, the Celestial Tribe has declined. We don't dare to start a war with the martial pavilion. If that's the case, give me a time, the right emissary said. Today, for the sake of the Celestial Tribe, we can take this person away, but there's a time limit. How about 15 days? The bald old man said. If you don't agree, the bald old man had a bad temper. If they did not agree within 15 days, then sorry, they would start a war. Anyway, he was already at the Heaven's Decay, Stage 5. If they really fought, even Lin Lang Wentian would not be able to take advantage of him. 15 days? 15 days? At this moment, the expressions of Ji Chongyang and the others changed. 15 days was far too sensitive a period of time. After 15 days, the blood path would open. Only those below the immortal state could enter the blood path. If Jiang Chun entered the blood path, how would they find Jiang Chun? Celestial Tribe Patriarch, how about 10 days? The right emissary said, we are all sensible people. The blood path will open in 15 days. If you send him into the blood path, how can we find him? That's right, 10 days. The left emissary said in a low voice. However, the bald old man was very unyielding. His eyes narrowed slightly as he said, now, do you have the qualifications to talk terms with me? The moment these words were spoken, everyone could clearly feel the killing intent emanating from the bald old man. Obviously, if Ji Chongyang and the others did not agree, this bald old man would start a massacre. It was just as the bald old man had said. What qualifications did the few of them have to negotiate with him? As long as he was willing, Ji Chongyang and the others could die here at any time. It seems that Patriarch Tian Lu has already calculated that he will send him to the bloody path after 15 days, right? Ji Chongyang said in a deep voice. However, Ancestor Tian Lu, you have to understand that the entrance to the bloody path has always been guarded by my martial pavilion. What does that have to do with me? I only know that 15 days, not a day more, not a day less. The bald old man's killing intent intensified as he asked, is there any other problem? Ji Chongyang and the others fell silent. Since he had already said so much, what other problems could they have? In the end, Jiang Chun smiled and left with the bald old man. Mu Xinglong and the ninth princess did not follow. After all, there was an unclear relationship between the Tian Lu clan and the Nine Li imperial family. As members of the Nine Li imperial family, it was naturally inappropriate for them to step into the Tian Lu clan's territory. Kid, you really know how to cause trouble. On the way, the bald old man frowned and said, I've lived for so long, but I've never seen the martial pavilion mobilize so many people. For a little cultivator in the lower heaven realm like you, the martial pavilion actually send out the left and right emissaries, the yin and yang emissaries, and Ji Chongyang. Tian Lu Xingyue smiled bitterly and said, what did you do to the martial pavilion? Nothing much. It started off as a small matter and slowly accumulated. The grudge grew bigger and bigger until now. Jiang Chun smiled bitterly and said, You can't blame me for this. I don't care what you do outside. But when you go to the Tian Lu clan, you have to keep a low profile. Tian Lu Xingyue said, the Tian Lu clan doesn't have much. The only thing they have is ruthless people. I don't cause trouble. Jiang Chen smiled and said. However, Tian Lu Xingyue did not believe him. If you don't cause trouble, would the martial pavilion be in such a state? The Tian Lu clan's territory was on a small island in the southern part of the underworld continent. Although it was called a small island, it was actually very big, occupying tens of thousands of square meters. The buildings here were very grand, just like an imperial city. It was surrounded by water on all sides, and the spiritual energy of heaven and earth was abundant. In the depths of the sea, there were countless rare treasures. It could be said that this place was a place with good feng shui, a paradise. After Jiang Chen arrived at this small island, he entered a small courtyard with a bald old man. The courtyard was not big and looked a little shabby. However, there were no buildings within 100 miles of this place. This was because this place was a forbidden area of the Tian Lu clan. Only the highest level of the Tian Lu clan could enter this place. You're a Heaven's Blight powerhouse. Why you live in a place like this? Jiang Chen looked around. The entire small courtyard looked a little dilapidated and even overgrown with weeds. He did not know what this old man usually did. Did he not know how to clean up? Jiang Chen even saw that some of the stone benches in the courtyard were covered with dust. I'm about to become a god. Why do I care about this? The bald old man said with a smile. He casually waved his hand and said, you can stay here during this period of time. Make yourself at home. Jiang Chen's face darkened when he heard that. He walked into the only room. When he saw the cobwebs and dust inside, he said with a look of disgust, can this place be lived in? Why can't it be lived in? The bald old man squinted and said, do you know how many people want to live here but don't have the qualifications? I wouldn't want this place even if you offered it to me for free. Jiang Chen said unhappily. He closed his eyes and felt the heaven-earth yuan qi around him. It was so thin that it was pitifully thin. This place was not only unsuitable for living, but it was also unsuitable for cultivation. Who will want to live in such a place? Patriarch, this is my family's kid. He wants to stay here for a few days. I wonder if... At this moment, a middle-aged man in brocade walked in with a youth about the same age as Jiang Chen. As he spoke, he took out a few jars of fine wine and respectfully handed them to the bald old man, saying, Patriarch, look, leave the wine and take him away. The bald old man waved his hand and said, he's not qualified to live here. Okay. The middle-aged man hurriedly nodded, not daring to say a word. However, before he left, he turned back to look at Jiang Chen, his eyes filled with doubt. See? Someone is begging to live here, but I don't agree. The bald old man said, you can't just look at the surface of this place. Then what do I have to look at? Jiang Chen asked curiously. You'll know at night. The bald old man said. Jiang Chen was also curious when he heard that. He nodded and said, then let's see at night. Next, Jiang Chen sat on the ground. He did not care if the ground was dirty or not. In this courtyard, everywhere was dirty, so it did not matter where he sat. The bald old man did not care about Jiang Chen. He lay on the weeds in the courtyard, picked up the wine gourd, and began drinking. Time passed by slowly, until night fell. At this moment, Jiang Chen woke up. He looked around and could not help but frown. It's still the same. Wait a bit longer, the bald old man said. This old man's abilities were all learned here. Chapter 419. Jiang Chen waited quietly, wanting to see what magical place there was in this small courtyard. Moreover, Jiang Chen also believed that this bald old man would not lie to him. After all, why would a 5th decay powerhouse lie to a low-level heaven realm cultivator like him? A few hours later, when the full moon hung high in the sky, Jiang Chen frowned slightly. An ray of light flashed in his eyes. A layer of mist had appeared in this small courtyard at some point in time. It flickered with divine light and was sparkling brightly. Under the bright moonlight, this divine light looked especially beautiful. It was like a layer of rainbow, incomparably dreamy. Kid, I'm right, the bald old man said with a smile. He took a sip of wine and said, take a good look. You won't be disappointed. Jiangchen didn't say anything. His gaze kept sweeping around. After more than 10 breaths, there was finally a change in the divine light. Bang! At this moment, there was a loud sound. Then, a figure appeared in the divine light. He held a 7-foot-long green sword in his hand and danced in the divine light, as if he was practicing some kind of sword technique. At the same time, a figure appeared in the divine light on the other side of Jiangchen. He sat cross-legged with his head raised to the sky. His eyes were closed, and his 5 fingers were facing the sky. His mouth and nose were inhaling and exhaling the radiance of the sun and moon as if he was cultivating. Moreover, in front of this person, there were ancient words flickering. It seemed to be a cultivation technique. These are... Jiangchen was shocked. These figures were not real, but illusory. However, upon closer inspection, Jiangchen was shocked. This was because these illusory figures were actually imprints of time and space. In other words, these people had once cultivated in this small courtyard. They were extremely powerful, making this entire space tremble. As time flowed on, their figures in the past, the things they did, were all engraved in this space. This is the ancestor of the Celestial clan. The bald old man said, these people once stood at the peak of cultivation. They could even slaughter gods. What? Jiangchen narrowed his eyes, but he did not believe it. After all, this was the godless continent. The strongest person on the godless continent was only a Deva 5th blight. And on the 9 heavens divine realm, any random god was enough to destroy the godless continent. Then, when these people were still on the godless continent, they already had the ability to challenge the gods. Jiangchen was once a god king, so he knew how terrifying the power of a god was. Thus, he truly did not believe the bald old man's words. However, when Jiangchen calmed his heart and focused his eyes to look at the figures around him, his expression couldn't help but change. He saw a figure practicing the sword, and with a slash of his sword, he actually cut open a hole in the sky. Wasn't this splitting open the sky? Splitting open the sky on the godless continent. Was there a mistake? One had to know that back when Jiangchen was a divine king, it was also very difficult for him to split open the sky. What do you think of this sword? The bald old man laughed. Then, he laughed bitterly. I've been here my whole life, but I haven't learned anything about this sword. Look at that saber. The bald old man pointed to another figure. That figure held a broken saber in his hand. It looked like it was about to shatter, but under the saber, the ground beneath his feet actually shattered and turned into nothingness. The most important thing was that Jiangchen saw the chains of order being cut off by this saber. The power of this saber was far above the previous sword. How strong were these people in the past? Gods? Jiangchen asked. Of course, the bald old man said. Once upon a time, the road to heaven had not been broken. Gods could descend to the mortal world, and mortals could also ascend to the 9 heavens. At that time, it was a glorious era. Gods would often descend to impart knowledge and teachings. The bald old man said, it's just a pity that the road to heaven was broken for some reason. Hearing this, Jiangchen's eyes flashed with a ray of light. He knew that the road to heaven was broken. Although he was very puzzled as to why it was broken, he was even more puzzled now. How strong were those gods that descended to the mortal world back then? One had to know that just based on the power of the sword and saber that he saw just now, Jiangchen felt ashamed of his inferiority even when he was a divine king. Then, could it be that the gods that descended to the mortal world to impart knowledge and teachings were at the divine king level? Or even above the divine king level? Comprehend it well. The bald old man said, just treat it as a gift from me to you. You're quite good to an outsider like me. Jiangchen said softly, why? Is it just because I drank with you once? Yeah, I'm just following my heart. The bald old man chuckled and said, even if you look at the things here for 10 or 100 years, you won't be able to learn them. Is that so? Jiangchen was amused and teased. Then if I learn them, will these things belong to me? Of course. The bald old man said, "If you learn them, it means that you're fated with these things." "All right." Jiang Chen nodded. In his soul, the ever-changing heavenly lamp quietly lit up. A candle flame shone out from Jiang Chen's soul and shone faintly between his eyebrows. At this moment, Jiang Chen's pupils were like two green lamps. When he looked at these figures, it was as if they had changed. Under the ever-changing heavenly lamp, what Jiang Chen saw was no longer moves, but ancient words. Those were sword martial arts, saber martial arts, and there were even cultivation techniques that he couldn't name. Moreover, under the ever-changing heavenly lamp, Jiang Chen didn't need to comprehend these martial arts and cultivation techniques at all. He already understood the true meaning and profound meaning of these martial arts and cultivation techniques. There's nothing special, Jiang Chen thought and smiled at the bald old man. I can't learn them. They're too profound. Of course, the bald old man raised his eyebrows. I've watched and comprehended my entire life, but I've only learned one cultivation technique and one martial arts technique. And you've only watched for a short while, and you want to learn one? Ha! How ignorant! Jiang Chen laughed. He couldn't possibly tell the bald old man that he already knew the martial arts techniques and cultivation techniques that those figures used wherever his eyes passed by. However, as far as Jiang Chen was concerned, these martial arts techniques and methods didn't mean much to him. Although these martial arts techniques were very strong, they weren't what Jiang Chen needed. Great light technique. All of a sudden, Jiang Chen's eyes narrowed as he stared at a figure. Waves of shock surged in his heart. That figure was shining with light all over, as if he was the incarnation of the sun. He was cultivating a martial arts technique, and his entire body was emitting a dazzling light. It was as if that figure was the most dazzling person in this world. And Jiang Chen had seen this martial arts technique before. It was the martial arts technique of the Master God of Light, the Great Light Technique. Which generation's Master God of Light is this? Jiang Chen frowned. When he used the ever-changing heavenly lamp to comprehend this Great Light Technique, he actually couldn't completely comprehend it. However, as long as there was enough world, Jiang Chen could also obtain this Great Light Technique. This is good stuff, Jiang Chen thought to himself. If he returned to the Nine Heavens divine realm in the future and fought with the Master God of Light again, when he also used the Great Light Technique, he wondered what kind of expression the Master God of Light would have. Chapter 420. The Great Light Technique could be said to be one of the top 10 martial arts techniques in the Nine Heavens divine realm. The Master God of Light relied on this martial art technique to stabilize his divinity and even subdue many gods and even masters. Back then, when Jiang Chen fought with the Master God of Light, he suffered from this Great Light Technique and even almost died a few times. If not for the fact that Jiang Chen had learned a lot and was proficient in all professions, the position of the Divine King back then would probably have belonged to the Master God of Light. A world of darkness, a light suppressing all directions. Jiang Chen spoke softly. He used the myriad transformations, heavenly lamp as a guide, and stared at that person. He was trying his best to comprehend the Great Light Technique. The bald old man was originally drinking, but he soon sensed that something was wrong with Jiang Chen. He walked to Jiang Chen and frowned slightly. He asked, "What's wrong? Have you comprehended something?" "A little." Jiang Chen was very humble. He smiled honestly and said, "If I take a few more looks, I might be able to comprehend it." "Come on, this martial art technique is extraordinary. Although I don't know what martial art technique it is, from ancient times until now, according to the records, only one person who entered this small courtyard has fully comprehended this martial art technique." "Oh, who is it?" Jiang Chen asked. "I only know that person's name. His surname is Ming, and his name is Guang." The bald old man said, "This is recorded in the ancient books. Whether it's true or not, I don't know either." However, when Jiang Chen heard the name Ming Guang, his expression froze. It was because the name of the current Master God of Light in the Nine Heavens divine realm was Ming Guang. Then, thinking carefully, The person who came here and comprehended the Great Light technique was most likely the current Master God of Light. For the current Master God of Light to be able to reach this step today, it should be all because of this. This place is a good place, Jiang Chen said to himself. Don't tell me I can still see martial god's unique martial art technique later? As he thought, Jiang Chen scanned his surroundings from the corner of his eyes, but he didn't see anything related to martial god. However, when he saw a corner of the small courtyard, his expression changed greatly, and a trace of dense, killing intent flashed in his eyes. Darkness, Master God, Jiang Chen bellowed in his heart. His expression was savage, and the killing intent in his eyes soared. When the bald old man saw this, he was shocked by Jiang Chen and mistakenly thought that Jiang Chen had gone mad. "What's wrong with you?" the bald old man hurriedly asked. He felt that the killing intent emitted from Jiang Chen's body was too terrifying. Even he, a Deva Fifth Blight powerhouse, felt alarmed. "I'm fine." Jiang Chen quickly regained his composure and calmed the killing intent in his heart. Then he stared at the Great Light technique and began to comprehend it. The bald old man didn't ask any more questions. After all, he thought that Jiang Chen had gone mad. But now, it seemed that Jiang Chen was very well, so he didn't need to worry about anything. However, Jiang Chen's heart was gloomy. He was even filled with killing intent. Back then in the Nine Heavens divine realm, Jiang Chen was so powerful. Otherwise, he wouldn't have needed 36 chief gods to besiege him. And in that battle back then, Jiang Chen wouldn't have died in battle. But at the critical moment, the Darkness Master God betrayed him. He betrayed Jiang Chen and used the power of darkness to temporarily deprive Jiang Chen of his strength for 3 breaths of time. It was also these 3 breaths of time that caused Jiang Chen to suffer heavy injuries, and finally, he was defeated and died in battle. It could be said that in Jiang Chen's heart, the hatred of the Darkness Master God was far stronger than the hatred of the other 36 chief gods. In fact, Jiang Chen wanted to take revenge at every moment. From when you just ascended to the Nine Heavens divine realm, to me guiding you step by step, all the way until you became a chief god. Jiang Chen sighed softly. But in the end, why did you betray me? This question, Jiang Chen never understood and couldn't figure it out. Perhaps only after ascending to the Nine Heavens divine realm and asking the Darkness Master God face to face could he find out the reason. It's daybreak. Several hours later, dawn broke over the horizon. The figures in the small courtyard disappeared. Jiang Chen woke up from his meditation state. Not yet finished, he could not help asking, "Will there still be tonight?" "Every night," the bald old man said. "As long as you can comprehend, everything here is up to you." When Jiang Chen heard that, he was immediately overjoyed. Possessing the myriad transformation heavenly lamp, he could turn everything impossible into possible. Even after death, he could enter the cycle of reincarnation and be reborn. Now, comprehending these martial techniques was nothing more than a small matter to the myriad transformation heavenly lamp. "Oh, right. You can only stay here for 15 days. After 15 days, I'll send you into the bloody path," the bald old man said. "I know." Jiang Chen nodded and said. Jiang Chen was very clear about his current situation. It could be said to be rather dangerous. If not for encountering this bald old man, he might have been killed by Ji Chongyang and the rest when he was at the heart-nurturing hall previously. At present, the world was so vast that there was already no place for Jiang Chen to shelter. The only place where he could avoid the martial pavilion was only the bloody path. The bloody path was a cultivation path opened up by the ancestors. That was a path that connected many small worlds. There were all kinds of terrifying, fierce beasts, demons, and even fiends inside. There were even some peculiar life forms. And most importantly, at the end of the bloody path was a divine throne. As long as one could ascend to the divine throne, although they could not become a god on the spot, they could also obtain the protection of the gods. That was the protection of the ancient gods. Of course, wanting to reach the end of the bloody path was absolutely not an easy matter. In every era, the strongest group of geniuses would step onto the bloody path and compete for supremacy. They represented their respective families, sects, forces, and the glory of their legacies. Moreover, the name of the Bloody Path was not just for show. Once, hundreds of thousands of people entered, but in the end, less than 30,000 people came out. The rest were all stained with blood in the Bloody Path. As a result, this path was called the Path of Blood. In entering the Bloody Path, one's cultivation could not exceed the deity realm. Therefore, as long as Jiang Chen entered the Bloody Path, he would be considered safe if there were no deity realm or heavenly being powerhouses. Of course, it could not be said to be absolutely safe. After all, the world was vast, and geniuses came in large numbers. Monstrous geniuses were as common as clouds. Jiang Chen did not know if he would encounter some opponents that he would be wary of. Even Jiang Chen did not know if he could come out of the Bloody Path alive. But entering the Bloody Path, at least for a short period of time, Jiang Chen's safety was guaranteed. If you reach the end of the Bloody Path and ascend to the Divine Throne, then when you come out, no matter how much the Martial Pavilion wants to kill you, they will not dare to act rashly, said the bald old man. I know. Jiang Chen nodded. Jiang Chen had been to the Bloody Path before, and he had reached the end and ascended to the Divine Throne. And after ascending to the Divine Throne, not only would he receive the protection of the ancient gods, but he would also receive the support of one of the 18 families. Those 18 families were the descendants of the 18 ancestors who opened up the Bloody Path. As long as he could receive the support and protection of one of the families. After Jiang Chen came out of the Bloody Path, although he would not be able to fight the Martial Pavilion head-on, it would be enough to make the Martial Pavilion wary. The Martial Pavilion would not dare to chase after Jiang Chen so openly. Chapter 421. The following days were very peaceful. During the day, Jiang Chen cultivated, and at night, he comprehended the Great Light Technique. This continued until 10 days later. Jiang Chen had been in the Heavenly Flow clan's territory for some time, and there were only 5 days left until the Blood Path opened. On this day, Jiang Chen was cultivating when a few noisy voices came from outside the small courtyard. Who is that young man inside? Why can he stay in a courtyard for so long? Even the direct descendants of the Heavenly Flow clan can't enter. What qualifications does that kid have? Jiang Chen naturally heard these words. He couldn't help but look at the bald old man and say, "Your clansmen have a big opinion of me. Why do you care about them?" The bald old man said snappily, "They all think that just because they have a little talent, they are arrogant. If they enter the Blood Path, they will most likely die inside. As the patriarch of the Heavenly Flow clan, why don't you give them some guidance?" Jiang Chen said mockingly. "What's there to give them guidance?" The bald old man said, "Cultivation depends on oneself. They think that they can leap into the sky and become invincible after entering the small courtyard? What a bunch of naive children. Patriarch, I don't accept this." At this moment, an arrogant voice came from outside the courtyard. "What right does an outsider have to enter the small courtyard?" "That's right. How powerful is he? How special is he? If he has the guts, ask him to come out and meet us." Hearing the voices outside the courtyard, Jiang Chen naturally didn't want to pay attention to them. However, the bald old man just chuckled and looked at Jiang Chen. He said, "You should go and give them some pointers so that they won't assume that they are strong. I don't know how to control my strength. If I kill or cripple them, I won't be responsible." Jiang Chen said, "Go ahead." The bald old man said, "Young people should exercise more." Hearing this, Jiang Chen didn't say much. He got up and walked out of the courtyard. Not long after, the sound of fighting came from outside the courtyard. However, after only a dozen breaths, Jiang Chen returned. "I'm done teaching you." Jiang Chen said, "Not bad. You can withstand 2 or 3 of my moves." The bald old man nodded his head with an indifferent expression when he heard this. He had already expected this outcome. After all, with Jiang Chen's strength, ordinary people were no match for him at all. In the same realm, Jiang Chen could be said to be basically invincible. Someone else is here. Half an incense stick later, Jiang Chen sensed an extremely powerful aura outside the courtyard. Furthermore, this person did not announce his arrival and directly entered the small courtyard. Ordinary people would not be able to enter this small courtyard unless they had the permission of the bald old man. However, that person did not announce his arrival and entered in a very natural manner. Furthermore, when he saw the bald old man, he only nodded slightly. He did not say much, nor did he salute him. The bald old man didn't say much. He just smiled at the young man and closed his eyes. At this moment, the young man walked in front of Jiang Chun. After looking him up and down, he asked, "Are you going to the bloody path?" "Yes." Jiang Chun nodded his head and said, "Follow me and accompany me on the bloody path." The young man was very straightforward. However, when Jiang Chun heard this, his face darkened slightly. He felt very uncomfortable in his heart. This was because whether it was in his previous life or this life, it had always been others who followed Jiang Chun. Jiang Chun could not follow and submit to others. Jiang Chun also did not have the habit of following and submitting to others. Moreover, in this world where strength spoke the loudest, even if Jiang Chun wanted to follow someone, he had to follow someone who was stronger than him. However, the young man in front of him was only an upper-level sage. In Jiang Chun's eyes, he was really not enough. Of course, it was hard to say how strong the young man was exactly. After all, the two of them had never fought before. If you don't follow me, then when you enter the bloody path, you will be an enemy. You have to think carefully. The young man raised his eyebrows. It's not a wise choice to be my enemy. In the bloody path, everyone is an opponent. Jiang Chun said, "It doesn't matter whether you are there or not. Moreover, I don't have the habit of following others." As soon as he said this, the young man's expression suddenly eased. He chuckled and said, "I'm afraid you won't even be able to walk half of the bloody path. Take care of yourself," Jiang Chun said softly. It was not like Jiang Chun had never walked the bloody path. In his previous life, Jiang Chun had fought all the way. He had gone through several life and death situations. In this life, Jiang Chun was obviously stronger than in his previous life. Then, walking to the end of the bloody path might be difficult and dangerous for Jiang Chun in this life. However, Jiang Chun believed that he could walk to the end. "Second brother, what are you doing here?" At this moment, Tian Lu Xingyue walked in. As the young master of the heavenly clan, he naturally didn't need to report his entry. As long as Tian Lu Xingyue said something, the entire heavenly clan would have to listen to his arrangements. "Brother, I just heard that there is a genius here, so I want him to follow me and walk the bloody path together," the young man said. Hearing this, Tian Lu Xingyue's expression immediately became strange. Others didn't know Jiang Chun's strength, but Tian Lu Xingyue knew it clearly. Previously in the Yangxin Palace, Jiang Chun directly killed Jiang Yintian with the soul-fusing skill. This strength was enough to prove that Jiang Chun was extraordinary. At the same time, Tian Lu Xingyue could also feel that Jiang Chun's real strength was extremely terrifying. During this period, Tian Lu Xingyue also sent people out to inquire about Jiang Chun. In the end, he got a piece of news. Since Jiang Chun appeared, he had never been defeated. How could such a person follow someone else? "Second brother, I think..." Tian Lu Xingyue frowned and said, "Why don't you follow him?" "What?" Hearing this, the young man was stunned. He didn't understand why his elder brother would say such a thing. It should be known that among the younger generation of the heavenly clan, Tian Lu Xingyue was the strongest, and the second was this young man. Tian Lu Xingyue. Tian Lu Xingyue's strength was even above Mu Xinglong's. Perhaps even Li Fengze of the Zhongzhou dynasty might not be a match for Tian Lu Xingyue. Such a person wanted to become someone else's follower, and the words came from his elder brother. This was not appropriate, right? "Second brother, there is always someone better than you," Tian Lu Xingyue said. "Even I may not be able to defeat this guy." "That's impossible." Tian Lu Xingyue didn't believe it and said, "Elder brother, your strength can be ranked among the younger generation of the godless continent." "And he? What is he?" Tian Lu Xingyue said. As soon as these words came out, Jiang Chun's face darkened slightly. He stared at Tian Lu Xingyue and said, "I'm not a big shot, but what about you?" "Me?" the second young master of the heavenly clan, a sage. Tian Lu Xingyue raised his eyebrows, and a trace of arrogance flashed in his eyes. He said, "Among the geniuses of the entire godless continent, if we were to rank them, I'm more than qualified to be in the top 30. Hearing Tian Lu Xingyue's confident words, Jiang Chen almost laughed out loud. How big was the godless continent? How many geniuses were there? How many geniuses were there? How many geniuses were there who had never shown their strength? If they really had to rank them, Jiang Chen was sure that Tian Lu Xingyue wouldn't even be in the top 100. Even Jiang Chen didn't dare to say that he could be in the top 30. Chapter 422. The number of geniuses on the godless continent was uncountable. And how many monsters were hidden in the dark? Jiang Chen believed that there would be a group of very powerful people in every era. Those people rarely showed up and rarely made a move. They were either focused on cultivating or tempering themselves in a certain place. Those people were the real geniuses, the real monsters, and could even be called monsters. Tian Lu Xingkong was very confident that he could rank in the top 30 of his generation in this world. Not only did Jiang Chen laugh at his words, but even Tian Lu Xingkong laughed out loud. Second brother, the world is so big and there are so many strange things. The strong are invincible. Where do you get your confidence from? Tian Lu Xingyue said with a smile. When you enter the bloody path, you will understand. Big brother, you dare not claim to be invincible among your peers in this world? Tian Lu Xingkong frowned. Tian Lu Xingkong naturally knew how strong Tian Lu Xingyue was. When Tian Lu Xingyue was born, the Tian Lu clan announced to the world that the Tian Lu clan would regain control of the underworld continent. And all of this was because of Tian Lu Xingyue. His talent and aptitude were beyond the understanding of ordinary people, and his strength was unfathomable. Since the moment he was born, he had been taught by the strongest person in the clan. They had even used up all kinds of treasures to help him cleanse his marrow and bones. The strength of his physical body and soul were not weaker than a sacred body. His cultivation was not weaker than Jiang Chen's. However, such a person did not dare to claim to be invincible among his peers. When you enter the bloody path, you will know how cruel it is. Your so-called strength is not worth mentioning in front of the group of monsters in the bloody path. Jiang Chen said, "Don't worry about your cultivation." "I don't believe it." Tian Lu Xingkong raised his eyebrows. How could someone as proud as him admit that he was weak? At this moment, he stared at Jiang Chen and said, "My big brother said that you are very strong. Why don't we have a fight?" Jiang Chen frowned when he heard this. He was a little unwilling. Tian Lu Xingkong was the second young master of the Tian Lu clan and had a noble status. And now, Jiang Chen still needed the protection of the heavenly clan. If they really fought later, what if they injured the heavenly flow starry sky? This brat. What would he do if he used his position to avenge his personal grudge? "Let's fight," Tian Lu Xingyue said. "With the great ancestor here, there won't be any accidents." "Don't tell me you're abusing your power to avenge a personal grudge," Jiang Chen said softly. "What if you lose and become angry out of humiliation? What if you join forces with the powerhouses of the heavenly clan to bully me? Who can I find a reason with?" One should know that the Heavenly Flow clan was extremely powerful. Any one of their elders was enough to make Jiang Chen suffer. Jiang Chen also felt apprehensive and did not want to fight with the Heavenly Flow starry sky. This brat is proud and arrogant. It's a good opportunity to teach him a lesson. The bald old man said from the side, "With me here, nothing will happen. Since you said so, I'll agree." Jiang Chen looked like he was in a difficult position, but in fact, he was in an even more difficult position. He was thinking about what to do when they fought later. Should he kill the Heavenly Flow Starry Sky in one move, or should he let the Heavenly Flow Starry Sky have some face? But what if the Heavenly Flow Starry Sky found out? At that time, the Heavenly Flow Starry Sky would lose even more face. For a moment, Jiang Chen was stunned in place, and he was very conflicted. "Make your move." At this moment, the Heavenly Flow Starry Sky raised his eyebrows and said to Jiang Chen, Your cultivation is lower than mine, so I'll let you make the first move. This is not good? Jiang Chun was a little hesitant. He looked at Tian Lu Xingyue and secretly transmitted his voice. If I make the first move, I'm afraid he won't have a chance to make a move. He's my second brother. You should at least give him some face. Tian Lu Xingyue transmitted her voice. Just teach him a lesson. You saw to give him some face. Okay. Jiang Chun nodded. As soon as he finished speaking, he saw Jiang Chun punch out. This punch carried a majestic aura. It was as if a mountain was crashing down, causing the air in this area to distort. There were even rumbling sounds. The fist radiance was shining with bright divine light, and there were even ancient and obscure runes flashing in the fist radiance. As soon as Tian Lu Xingyue saw this fist radiance, her heart tightened. She hurriedly transmitted her voice. Take it easy. Don't beat him down with one punch. My punch looks good, but it's not powerful. Jiang Chun was also quite frustrated. Even though this punch was imposing and had a dazzling divine light, it didn't possess any power at all. If the heavenly flow starry sky could not take this punch, then there was nothing Jiang Chun could do. Are you underestimating me? At this moment, the heavenly flow starry sky was furious. He raised his hand and shattered Jiang Chun's fist radiance. He said coldly, "Are you deliberately going easy on me? Or is this all you've got?" "It's over. I've been seen through." Jiang Chun smiled bitterly. He glared at Tian Lu Xingyue and said, "Take the blame." "Me? What does it have to do with me?" Tian Lu Xingyue looked innocent and said, "Just fight well." "Then I'm really going to fight this time," Jiang Chun said. "Don't be so fancy. Come at me. The heavenly flow starry sky is destined to be stronger than you." Tian Lu Xingyue said coldly, "If you deliberately go easy on me again, believe it or not, I'll ask the elders in the clan to suppress you." As soon as Jiang Chun heard this, his heart trembled, and his expression became strange. "What? Are you forcing me to fight for real? All right then, you said it yourself, so don't blame me for it." Boom! At this moment, Jiang Chun formed a seal with his hands and pressed his palms on the ground. In an instant, thorns of earth shot up into the sky, and gusts of wind whistled. In the air, there were flames and thunder erupting. Under the two palms, this space seemed to be destroyed. "Interesting. That's more like an opponent," Tian Lu Xingyue whispered. The confidence in his eyes was not concealed at all. In fact, there was even a trace of disdain in the depths of his eyes. The next moment, a sky halberd appeared in his hand, and he swept it out. A ray of light swept across the sky like a broken mountain and headed straight for Jiang Chun. However, this attack was shattered by the thorns of earth before it could reach Jiang Chun. At the same time, the flames and thunder in the sky were accompanied by the howling wind. Like a thundercloud, they directly drowned the heavenly flow starry sky. "Ah!" Accompanied by a scream, Tian Lu Xingyue was shaken to the ground on the spot. Blood flowed from his mouth and nose, and his body was twitching nonstop. In particular, clusters of flames and thunder were jumping on his body, and they could not be extinguished for a long time. At this moment, Jiang Chun was dumbfounded. That move just now only used 5 kinds of techniques. The combination of 5 kinds of techniques was not Jiang Chun's full-strength attack. In Jiang Chun's mind, Tian Lu Xingyue should be able to block that move just now. But unexpectedly, with one move, Tian Lu Xingyue fell to the ground. "Ahem. I told you to take it easy," Tian Lu Xingyue said with a strange expression. As she spoke, she helped Tian Lu Xingyue up and asked, "Are you okay? This doesn't make sense." After Tian Lu Xingyue got up, he was very weak. After all, he was seriously injured. At the same time, a trace of disbelief flashed in his eyes. Chapter 423. Tian Lu Starry Sky was a sage, while Jiang Chun was only in the lower heaven realm. Due to the gap between their cultivations, even if Jiang Chun stood still in the heavenly starry sky, it would still be difficult for him to injure him. But now, Tian Lu Starry Sky was gone with one move. Ahem. Second brother, I forgot to tell you that the man in front of you is the famous sect master, Jiang Chun. Tian Lu Starry Sky said with a wry smile. I know he's Jiang Chun. Tian Lu Starry Sky said in a deep voice. But he can't be so strong. There are many people stronger than me. Jiang Chun squinted at Tian Lu Starry Sky and said, Your elder brother is not weaker than me. Nonsense, I don't have much strength. Tian Lu Starry Sky's face darkened and said, Keep a low profile. Tian Lu Starry Sky fell silent when he heard that. Usually, the people in his clan had always told him to keep a low profile. They always said that there was always someone better than him, but he had never believed anyone. In the Tian Lu clan, among his peers, the only person he trusted was his elder brother, Tian Lu Starry Sky. But now, looking at his elder brother's appearance, it seemed that he did not dare to jump in front of Jiang Chun. Then, elder brother, who is stronger between you and him? Tian Lu Starry Sky asked. It's hard to say. Tian Lu Starry Sky covered his face and said, Why do we have to compete? Let's sit down, drink tea together, and discuss the path of life and cultivation experience. How nice would that be? Elder brother, Tian Lu Starry Sky said, Tell me the truth. I can't beat him. Tian Lu Starry Sky's face turned red, but he thought that if they really fought, it would be difficult for him to defeat Jiang Chun. At least, he was not confident that he could defeat Jiang Chun if they were in the same realm. If he did not suppress his realm, Tian Lu Starry Sky was confident that he could defeat Jiang Chun. However, Tian Lu Starry Sky also knew that Jiang Chun knew a lot of secret and forbidden skills. Thus, if the two of them were to fight, if one of them were to not suppress his cultivation and the other were to use a forbidden secret technique, it would be hard to tell who would emerge victorious. All right, you little brats, go and prepare properly, the bald old man said. In a few days, we will enter the bloody path. After entering, life and death will be up to fate. Ancestor, I came here today because I have something to ask of you. At that moment, Tian Lu Xingyue's expression became serious. She said seriously, Can you help me pass the trial? It was essential for cultivators to go through tribulations. Some people had fewer tribulations, while others had more tribulations. Some people's tribulations were simple, but some people's tribulations were enough to destroy themselves. When Jiang Chun heard this, his face was filled with curiosity. It was hard for him to imagine that with Tian Lu Xingyue's strength, would she need other people's help to pass the tribulation? Advanced? The bald old man was stunned for a moment. Then, a trace of excitement flashed in his eyes. He asked again, You really advanced? Yes, I advanced the day before yesterday. Tian Lu Xingyue nodded, but a trace of fear flashed in her eyes. It was as if he was worried that he would not be able to transcend the heavenly tribulation. Advanced? Big brother, your sacred physique has advanced? Tian Lu Xingyue exclaimed. Then he said with envy, Flowing light's sacred physique? Ahem. Tian Lu Xingyue coughed a few times and said, Keep a low profile. In 1,500 years, big brother, you are the first person to advance the colored glass sacred physique to the flowing light sacred physique. Tian Lu Xingyue said, No wonder the celestial clan values you so much, boom. As soon as he finished speaking, there was a sudden explosion in the sky above the small courtyard. Then, a tribulation cloud appeared. It was colorful. Lightning flashed in 5 colors. Then, before anyone could react, the 5-colored lightning condensed into a guillotine. There was also an inexplicable pulling force that covered the entire courtyard. For a moment, everyone present was uncontrollably flying toward the guillotine. Heavenly/tribulation? The bald old man exclaimed. No wonder you asked me for help. It's the heavenly/tribulation. The heavenly/tribulation was extraordinary. As its name suggested, it was the heavenly/tribulation that was used when the heavens wanted to kill creatures. Since ancient times, few people have been able to survive this kind of heavenly/tribulation. According to the ancient records, only 2 people had survived the heavenly/tribulation. Old ancestor, this Tian Lu Xingyue opened her mouth, but before she could finish speaking, the bald old man suddenly stood up, and an extremely violent aura erupted from his body. Then, he punched out and shouted, "Break!" The next moment, the fist light was like a rock, spreading its wings and rushing backward, bombarding the guillotine. In an instant, the guillotine shattered, and even the tribulation cloud dissipated. "This is it?" The bald old man smiled and said, "I thought I was the 5 decay of heaven. The heavenly/tribulation on the godless continent is just a small matter to me. Old ancestor, this is not my heavenly/tribulation." Tian Lu Xingyue smiled bitterly and said, "You are helping others to survive the tribulation." When the bald old man heard this, his face collapsed. He glanced at the small courtyard, and there were only 4 of them. Tian Lu Xingyue had just transcended the tribulation not long ago, so the heavenly/tribulation was definitely not his. And Tian Lu Xingyue also said that this heavenly/tribulation was not his. Then, there was only one Jiang Chen left. "What are you looking at? The tribulation has already passed," Jiang Chen said with a chuckle. "Besides, I didn't ask you to help. You helped me yourself." "I?" The bald old man's face turned black, and he said in a solemn voice, "Do you know how dangerous it is for me to help others transcend the tribulation once? I'm going to transcend the tribulation of becoming a deity soon. Now that I help others transcend the heavenly/tribulation once, there will be a trace of karma on me. At that time, this karma power will all turn into heavenly/tribulation." The bald old man's face became more and more ugly, and he said, "At that time, how terrifying my heavenly/tribulation is, do you know? Don't say any more. You look, another heavenly/tribulation came." Jiang Chen pointed above his head. No idea when another tribulation cloud appeared in the sky. This time, it was still the heavenly/tribulation. But this time, there were 3 guillotines. The power of this heavenly/tribulation should be the heavenly/tribulation after the divine body has advanced. The bald old man's expression became serious, and without saying anything, he punched out 3 times in a row. Under the 3 punches, the heavenly/tribulation this time collapsed. However, in the next moment, the bald old man's face turned black again. It was because he saw the strange expression on Tian Lu Xingyue's face, and he covered his face and said, "Ancestor, the heavenly/tribulation this time is not mine." "What the F***CK?" The bald old man burst out swearing, stared at Jiang Chen, and asked, "It's yours again?" "It's mine," Jiang Chen said weakly. "This time, I really planned to transcend the tribulation myself, but before I could say anything, you directly attacked. What sin have I really committed?" The bald old man was trembling with anger, and he felt weak in his heart, thinking to himself how powerful his heavenly/tribulation would be in the future. "Kid, how did you get so many heavenly slashes?" the bald old man asked. Chapter 424. I used the God-vanquishing technique earlier. This should be a kind of backlash or retribution, Jiang Chen explained. In fact, these 2 heavenly tribulations were caused by Jiang Chen's Qingsong technique. To cultivate the Qingsong technique, one had to go through many heavenly tribulations. The minimum was 9, the maximum was 18, and there were even 36. Ancestor. At this moment, Tian Lu Xingyue's expression changed drastically. She looked at the sky and said, "My heavenly tribulation is here." As soon as she said this, the bald old man's expression became serious. This was because a blood-red palm had appeared in the sky. As soon as the palm appeared, it rushed toward Tian Lu Xingyu, carrying the aura of the great Tao in the heavens. "Heavenly blood palm," the bald old man exclaimed. This kind of heavenly tribulation was very rare. This was a heavenly tribulation that only appeared for some evil people. Cough, cough. I'm not an evil person, right? Tian Lu Xingyu looked depressed. She didn't do anything bad on a daily basis. In fact, she rarely killed. Then, this heavenly tribulation. How could it be the heavenly blood palm? However, the heavenly tribulation was already here. Tian Lu Xingyu also knew that she couldn't pass the heavenly tribulation, so she could only pin her hopes on the bald old man. To the bald old man, these heavenly tribulations were nothing. However, when he went through his own heavenly tribulation in the future, it would have a great impact. However, for his descendants and the hope of the heavenly clan, the bald old man couldn't care less. He exhaled, and like a river of stars, it rolled backward and dispersed the blood-red palm. However, when the blood-red palm was dispersed, a pure white lotus bloomed in the sky, and there were even snow-white thunderbolts erupting. What's going on? Tian Lu Xingyu was dumbfounded. After the heavenly blood palm was dispersed, she felt that her heavenly tribulation hadn't disappeared yet. As for Jiang Chun, he closed his eyes and looked like he had nothing to do with it. As a matter of fact, as soon as Jiang Chun had seen the firmament blood hand, he had realized it was his heavenly ko. And Tian Lu Xingyu's heavenly tribulation was actually covered up after the heavenly blood palm. In this way, the heavenly blood palm that the bald old man shattered was actually Jiang Chen's heavenly tribulation. Ancestor, this heavenly tribulation of the white lotus seems to be mine, said Tian Lu Xingyu said. What? The bald old man was used heavenly tribulation was in the heavenly tribulation. He helped someone's heavenly tribulation 3 times in a row, and now, is that heaven's blood hand yours? The bald old man roared furiously, almost going berserk. Heavenly tribulation of the heavenly tribulation. Heavenly tribulation is heavenly tribulation's heavenly can's heavenly tribulation. I are you? The bald old man glared at him, but he didn't dare to not make a move. After all, the heavenly tribulation this time should be the meteor moons. At this moment, the bald old man attacked again and shattered the calamity of the white lotus. Then the bald old man stared at Jiang Chun with a gloomy face. He said, "Tell me clearly, how many more heavenly tribulations are there? Today should be the end." Jiang Chun smiled bitterly. "You can't blame me. I don't know when the heavenly tribulation will come, and I can't control it." "Then blame me?" The bald old man shouted angrily. "Do you want to kill me?" "I don't dare to blame you," Jiang Chun said innocently. "I can only say that the timing of Tian Lu Xingyu's heavenly tribulation is too coincidental." "I don't care about this," the bald old man said in a deep voice. "I helped you. How are you going to compensate me?" Jiang Chun raised his eyebrows and said, "I didn't ask you to help me go through it. Besides, I can go through this kind of heavenly ko by myself." "You!" The bald old man was furious. He glared at Jiang Chun and raised his hand to attack. He wanted to drive Jiang Chun out of the courtyard. "Wait!" Jiang Chun hurriedly said, "I have a martial skill that is very suitable for the flowing light sacred body." The bald old man stopped attacking right away. Tian Lu Xingyu, who was next to him, also stared at Jiang Chun. The flowing light sacred body can control the light of all things and the color of the world. Jiang Chun said, "I have a martial skill that is very suitable for it." "What martial skill?" Tian Lu Xingyu asked hurriedly. Tian Lu Xingyu had the flowing light sacred body, but she didn't have a martial skill that was suitable for it. As a result, the power of the flowing light sacred body would be greatly reduced. Now that they were about to enter the blood path, Tian Lu Xingyu naturally wanted to improve her strength. Otherwise, it would be awkward if she entered the blood path and died inside. "The Great Light Technique," Jiang Chun said seriously. "I've been comprehending the Great Light Technique for the past few days. I should be able to comprehend it thoroughly before entering the blood path. I will share it with you then." "Kid, who are you trying to fool?" The bald old man said snappily. "In the past thousands of years, not many people have been able to comprehend the martial skills in this small courtyard. Even if you can comprehend it, it is not something that can be done in a day and night. It requires years of accumulation. If it is short, it will take decades. If it is long, it will take 100 years or even 1,000 years." The bald old man said, "You have only been in this small courtyard for 10 days. How can you comprehend the Great Light Technique. It's up to you to believe it or not. Jiang Chun said, if you believe me, the Great Light Technique is his. If you don't believe me, what can you do to me? As soon as he said this, the bald old man was at his wit's end. After all, he did help Jiang Chun pass his heavenly tribulation. Although it was a misunderstanding, he couldn't blame Jiang Chun. Moreover, with the bald old man's status, since he had promised Jiang Chun to protect him for 15 days, he would have to do it for 15 days. One day less, with the bald old man's status, he would lose face. Kid, you better not lie to me, the bald old man said in a solemn voice. If you lie to me, I won't send you to the bloody path when the time comes. You walk there yourself. All right, Jiang Chun said with a nod. Following that, Tian Lu Xingyue did not say much either, leaving together with Tian Lu Xingyue 2 people. The remaining days, Jiang Chun cultivated during the day and comprehended the Great Light Technique at night. All the way until the night of the 30th day, Jiang Chun finally comprehended the Great Light Technique thoroughly under the effect of the myriad change heavenly lamp, comprehending the profound meaning. On this night, Jiang Chun did not go back on his word. He called Tian Lu Xingyue over and imparted the complete Great Light Technique. It's really the Great Light Technique. Great Light Technique? At this moment, the bald old man and Tian Lu Xingyue were visibly moved. This level of martial technique was the Lord God of Light's forbidden art. In the present world, including the 9 heavens divine world, the only person who knew the Great Light Technique was the Lord God of Light alone. And now, there were 2 more. One was Jiang Chun, one was Tian Lu Xingyue. There are still 2 days. I'll see if I can comprehend other cultivation methods or martial techniques again. Jiang Chun said, no longer paying attention to the bald old man and Tian Lu Xingyue. His gaze started sweeping around inside the small courtyard. Chapter 425. In the night, figures flickered in the small courtyard. Some were cultivating martial arts techniques, while others were cultivating cultivation techniques. Jiang Chun scanned the surroundings, wanting to see if there were any other good things. You only used a few days to comprehend the Great Light Technique. If you were given more time, wouldn't all the martial arts techniques and cultivation techniques here be obtained by you? The bald old man frowned and said, by then, don't worry, I won't spread it. Jiang Chun pursed his lips and said, moreover, I'm basically not interested in the things here. However, just as he finished speaking, Jiang Chun's eyes narrowed involuntarily as he saw a very familiar figure. This figure was performing a set of fist seals. His movements were wide open, but there was a kind of mystery hidden within. Every single punch he threw resonated with the great Tao. Furthermore, each of his fists was filled with an extremely obscure aura. Jiang Chun lit up the ever-changing heavenly lamp, and the light in his eyes flickered. When his gaze landed on that figure again, he actually saw a reincarnation. No, to be precise, it was a rune similar to the 6 paths of reincarnation. Behind this figure, 6 rays of light flickered. Upon closer inspection, weren't those the 6 runes of the 6 paths of reincarnation? This is the 6 paths of reincarnation fist? Jiang Chun was shocked. This fist technique had long been lost. It was said that it was buried. It was because this martial arts technique was too terrifying. It was said that one punch could even shatter reincarnation. It was precisely because it was too terrifying that it caused all beings to be wary of this martial arts technique, and thus it was buried. However, Jiang Chun knew that there was another person in this world who also knew the 6 paths of reincarnation fist. And that person was the martial god of the 9 heavens divine world. However, the 6 paths of reincarnation fist that martial god mastered was not complete. However, even an incomplete 6 paths of reincarnation fist was enough for martial god to stabilize his chief god divinity. Moreover, among the many chief gods, his combat strength was second only to the chief god of light. Back then, Jiang Chun had also tried to exchange the 6 paths of reincarnation fist with martial god, but martial god had refused. Martial god didn't agree to it even after they started a war. And now, in this magical little courtyard, Jiang Chun actually saw the complete 6 paths of reincarnation fist. If this martial skill is ranked second, I'm afraid no martial skill would dare to be ranked first. Jiang Chun exclaimed in his heart. His eyes locked onto the figure as he started to study the 6 paths reincarnation fist. However, in just half an instant's time, Jiang Chun felt a stinging pain in his eyes, and even the light in the myriad change heavenly lamp began to flicker. It looked like it was about to be extinguished. This is a forbidden sight. Jiang Chun was shocked. He hurriedly put away the myriad change heavenly lamp, and the light in his eyes disappeared. He had a lingering fear, knowing that if he forced himself to study the 6 paths of reincarnation fist, he might trigger the forbidden sight and cause trouble. However, the complete 6 paths of reincarnation fist was right in front of him. If he could get it, Jiang Chun's strength would be unimaginable in the future. 2 more days, Jiang Chun whispered. If he couldn't completely understand the 6 paths of reincarnation fist in these 2 days, he would have to wait until he came back from the bloody path. At that time, the bald old man might not let him enter this little courtyard again. In fact, Jiang Chun might even die in the bloody path. Now, Jiang Chun wasn't worried about the lack of time, but he was worried about triggering the forbidden sight. Even the myriad change heavenly lamp was almost extinguished. Jiang Chun thought, still fearful, but he didn't want to give up. After hesitating for a while, Jiang Chun suddenly smiled and thought, I've already died a few times. Why would I be afraid of this forbidden sight? With that thought, Jiang Chun's eyes focused, and the myriad change heavenly lamp on his soul suddenly burst forth with shocking flames. The flames that were originally like candlelight burned to the extreme under Jiang Chun's full power. At this moment, Jiang Chun looked at the figure again, and a strange feeling appeared in his heart, as though he had an epiphany. After more than 10 breaths, what Jiang Chun saw were no longer streaks of fist light, but ancient and obscure runes. These runes represented the 6 paths, reincarnation, and the 6 paths of reincarnation. And these runes were the true intent of the 6 paths of reincarnation fist. Jiang Chun focused and memorized these runes in his heart. Then, he hurriedly put away the myriad change heavenly lamp. That was because the light on the myriad change heavenly lamp was becoming more and more unstable. It was just a little bit away from being extinguished. That was close. Jiang Chun was shocked, and cold sweat broke out on his forehead. His back was even colder. Just now, Jiang Chun could feel as if there was an eye watching him from the unseen world. That was like a formless yet real life form, as if it was the master of all forbidden traces in this world. Jiang Chun had a hunch that if he put away the myriad change heavenly lamp a little later just now, he was very likely to be killed by some unknown life form or unknown power. The true intent of the 6 paths of reincarnation fist is already in my hands. Next, I can slowly comprehend it myself. Jiang Chun thought to himself. But at this moment, the bald old man and the rest had strange expressions, because another tribulation cloud actually appeared above Jiang Chun's head again. And the tribulation cloud this time was extraordinary. Lightning rolled inside the tribulation cloud, blazing flames burned, and there was even ice and frost floating. It was as if all the elements in this world were inside that tribulation cloud. Heavenly punishment! Tian Lu Xingyue cried out in surprise, staring at Jiang Chun and saying, What did you do? Even heavenly punishment came. This defended heaven? Or did you do something that crossed the line? The bald old man cried out in surprise. I didn't do anything. Jiang Chun feigned a puzzled and innocent look, but in reality, he was very clear in his heart. This heavenly punishment was most likely related to the 6 paths of reincarnation fist. Kid, this old man can't help you this time, the bald old man said in a solemn voice. If you help others transcend tribulation again, my tribulation to become a deity when the time comes will probably directly destroy me. When did I ever say to let you help me transcend tribulation? Jiang Chun glanced sideways. It's always been you taking the initiative to help me transcend tribulation. Kid, what you said is meaningless, the bald old man said huffily. In the end, this old man also helped you transcend heavenly tribulation. Even heavenly punishment came. Tian Lu Xingyue frowned and said, "Can you transcend it yourself? If you can't, I'll call my clansmen over and help you think of a way." When Jiangchen heard this, he couldn't help but roll his eyes and said huffily, "It's just heavenly punishment. Don't make it sound like a life and death tribulation." After saying that, Jiangchen rushed up and rushed into the tribulation cloud in the blink of an eye. Boom! Boom! The next moment, fist radiance erupted in the tribulation cloud, and there were even bright and dark colors dancing in the air. Tian Lu Xingyue and Tian Lu Xingchen widened their eyes. They didn't expect that Jiang Chen's way of transcending tribulation would be so violent, directly using force. Of course, they couldn't see the scene in the tribulation cloud clearly. However, the bald old man could see very clearly. He saw that runes, formations, restrictions, and all kinds of things appeared around Jiang Chun. There were even battle spirits, undead spirits, and other things. This guy is proficient in all professions? The bald old man was extremely shocked, and then his pupils suddenly shrank and said, "Could it be that he's the successor of Tian Chin Divine King?" Chapter 426. In the Godless Continent, there was only one person who was proficient in all professions. This person was Jiang Chun from his previous life. Now, the legend of being proficient in all professions had always been circulating. Jiang Chun had ascended 3,000 years ago. After that, no one could be proficient in all professions. Now, there was another person who was proficient in all professions. Anyone would think so. However, the bald old man did not know that Jiang Chun was not the successor of Tian Chin Deity King. He was Tian Chin Deity King himself. Boom! After a dozen breaths, the tribulation cloud suddenly exploded. The sky was clear and Jiang Chun was unharmed. His clothes fluttered and landed in the small courtyard. At this moment, the two brothers widened their eyes. Looking at Jiang Chun, who was unharmed and had a relaxed smile on his face, they were dumbfounded. That was heaven's punishment, not heaven's punishment. The power of heaven's punishment was far above heaven's punishment. Ordinary people would never experience heaven's punishment in their lifetime. Moreover, since ancient times, very few people could survive heaven's punishment. That was a punishment from the heavens. How could an ordinary person go against the heavens? "You're really a monster." Tian Lu Xingyu was stunned for a long time before he squeezed out such a sentence. "I'm used to it." Jiang Chen chuckled and said, "If only Tomb Star Wolf was here, I wouldn't have to go through the tribulation personally." "You even found a lightning rod?" Tian Lu Xingyu's heart tightened. He felt that it was really dangerous to be with Jiang Chun. At this moment, the bald old man sized up Jiang Chun. His eyes were shining, as if he wanted to see through Jiang Chun. However, he knew who Jiang Chun was. He had lived 2 lives. How could a person who had lived 2 lives be seen through by a person who had lived 1 life? In terms of age, the bald old man would have to call Jiang Chun his ancestor. "What's your relationship with Tian Chin Deity King?" The bald old man looked at Jiang Chun for a long time. He could not see through him and asked directly. "By chance, I obtained Tian Chin Deity King's inheritance." Jiang Chun lied through his teeth. Anyway, he would not admit that he was Tian Chin Deity King. However, in the years of the bald old man, Tian Lu Xingyu, and the rest, it was so real. They would not suspect that Jiang Chun was Tian Chin Deity King. In their hearts, Jiang Chun was Tian Chin Deity King's inheritance. "If it's possible, would you be willing to exchange the inheritance of the heavenly stellar divine king with my heavenly flow tribe?" The bald elder asked with a hint of longing in his eyes. After all, this was the inheritance of the divine king. If the heavenly flow clan could obtain it, they would definitely be able to enjoy a glorious future. "We deity kings, deity king." Jiang Chen said sarcastically. You'd better pray that I won't die in the bloody path. Otherwise, Divine King Tianqin's inheritance will be cut off. Boy, you are quite cunning. The bald old man was old and shrewd. When he heard Jiang Chen's words, he immediately understood what he meant. Jiang Chen was looking for help. Those who can enter the path of blood are all monstrous cultivators, monsters. With your strength, even though you're very strong, your cultivation level is too low. You really need someone to protect you. The bald old man frowned and looked at Tian Lu Xingyu and Tian Lu Xing. You too, ancestor with my strength. I'm afraid I can't protect him. Tian Lu Xingyu smiled bitterly. He was no longer confident when facing Jiang Chen. Now, Tian Lu Xingyu was sure that if he and Jiang Chen were to fight, he would lose. Ancestor, don't tell me you want me to protect him? Tian Lu Xingyu frowned. I'm afraid I can't protect myself in the blood path. The three of you go together and take care of each other, the bald old man said. When the time comes, the chances of survival will be higher. When Jiang Chen heard that, a trace of disdain flashed in his eyes. He looked at Tian Lu Xingyu and then at Tian Lu Xingyu. He said, this boy, if he follows me, he will be a burden. I will have to take care of him. It's too troublesome. Tian Lu Xingyu was stunned. What? He was disdained. He remembered that he was arrogant in front of Jiang Chen and wanted to accept Jiang Chen as his follower. Now he was disdained. Tian Lu Xingyu's heart was filled with bitterness. I have protected you for 15 days and let you stay in the small yard. You can take it as a favor to me. Take care of Tian Lu Xingyu in the blood path. The bald old man sighed. This boy is arrogant. I'm afraid he will cause trouble in the blood path. I'm afraid I can't take care of Tian Lu Xingyu alone. When Jiang Chen heard that, he frowned. He was very unwilling. After all, Tian Lu Xingyu's strength was too weak in Jiang Chen's eyes. However, since the bald old man had said so, Jiang Chen couldn't refuse. All right, just stay with me. Don't cause any trouble, Jiang Chen said, nodding. Then, Jiang Chen looked at Tian Lu Xingyu and said teasingly, since your ancestor has said so, what do you think? Me? What do I mean? Tian Lu Xingyu was confused. She pointed at herself and said, you want me to protect you? I'm the young master of the Tian Lu tribe. I'm also the leader of the Chuanzuan sect. Jiang Chen opened his eyes wide and said, my cultivation level is too low. When we enter the bloody path, you'll have to protect me in the beginning. When my cultivation level improves, I won't let you suffer any losses. Jiang Chen could see Tian Lu Xingyu's strength. Her cultivation was high, and her combat strength was also very strong. If Jiang Chen and Tian Lu Xingyu fought now, Jiang Chen would definitely lose if he didn't use the forbidden technique. It's decided then. Without waiting for Tian Lu Xingyu to speak, the bald old man made the decision and said, if you can come out of the blood path alive, you will exchange the inheritance of Tianqin Supreme being with the Tian Lu tribe. At this point, Jiang Chen was also interested and asked, what will the Tian Lu tribe exchange for it? When these words came out, the bald old man was also stunned. He thought carefully and really didn't know what to exchange for it. After all, it was the inheritance of a supreme being. Ordinary things were not qualified to exchange with the inheritance of Tianqin Supreme Being. However, now that the opportunity was in front of him, the bald old man wasn't willing to give it up. If you can come out of the blood path alive, you will give the inheritance of Tianqin Supreme Being to the Tian Lu tribe. And the Tian Lu tribe will protect you in the godless continent. The bald old man said, even if it's the martial pavilion, the Tian Lu tribe can contend with it. Can you beat Linlang Wentian? Jiang Chen asked. The bald old man was confused. He had never fought with Linlang Wentian before. He only knew that Linlang Wentian was the strongest person in the godless continent. However, both of them were people at the heaven's decay stage. If they really fought, the bald old man believed that Linlang Wentian wouldn't gain any advantage. With that thought, the bald old man nodded and said, I'll fight with him. Chapter 427. All right, Jiang Chen nodded. To be able to obtain the protection of the entire Heavenly Flow clan, this was not a loss. Moreover, passing down his legacy was something that should be done. Jiang Chun did not wish for his legacy to be severed. At the very most, he could just treat it as spreading his family name and spreading his incense. Then that's all for now. We will set off in 2 days and head to the entrance of the Bloody Path. The bald old man said. After that, the Tian Lu Xing Yu brothers left. The bald old man hugged his wine gourd and fell asleep. Jiang Chun cultivated by himself. When night fell, Jiang Chun suddenly opened his eyes. This was because Jiang Chun felt a trace of unusual aura. However, when he glanced at the bald old man, he realized that he did not react at all. Could it be that I'm overthinking? Jiang Chun frowned and looked around. When he saw the figure in the west corner of the small courtyard, his eyes flashed. This is the great transformation supreme being? At this moment, Jiang Chun exclaimed in his heart. He hurriedly got up and walked in front of the figure. Jiang Chun had once seen the statue of the great transformation supreme being in the ancient ruins. Therefore, he recognized the identity of the figure at a glance. At this moment, the figure of the great transformation supreme being was flashing like a star. His hands were forming seals, as if he was cultivating some kind of martial technique. Jiang Chun stared at it. He felt that this martial technique was familiar, as if he had seen it somewhere before. However, when he really thought about it, his mind was blank. What a strange feeling. Jiang Chun was puzzled. What was this feeling of déjà vu? What was the relationship between him and the great transformation supreme being? The art of transformations? After half an hour, Jiang Chun stared at the figure of the great transformation supreme being for a long time. He did not use the great transformation's heavenly lamp. However, he unexpectedly discovered that he could understand the martial technique that the great transformation supreme being was practicing. Moreover, not only could he understand it, but he could also see through the profound meaning in it at a glance. All living beings are born with yin and yang. Yang returns to reality and yin returns to emptiness. The combination of emptiness and reality is called transformation, turning the impossible into the possible, turning all power into one's own, turning all opportunities into one's own. This is myriad transformations. Jiang Chun seemed to have heard the voice of the myriad transformations God King. At the same time, Jiang Chun's hands began to dance unconsciously. As his 10 fingers danced, ancient and cryptic runes began to take shape. After a dozen breaths of time, the runes suddenly condensed into a screen of light that illuminated the sky. The bald old man was startled awake. When he saw the divine light that shot into the sky from Jiang Chun's body, a look of shock flashed across his eyes. What is this? The bald old man cried out in surprise. He felt a mighty force from that divine light. This power, this aura, even a Deva Fifth Blight powerhouse like him felt a trace of dread and danger. Jiang Chun, on the other hand, seemed to be in a trance. He had no idea what he was doing. He constantly formed seals as his understanding of the myriad transformations art increased. 2 hours later, the myriad transformations God King's figure suddenly disappeared. Jiang Chun also woke up from that strange state. The moment he woke up, Jiang Chun's body trembled. A drop of blood essence began to burn in his soul. This drop of blood essence was the drop of blood that the mysterious old man sealed in his body back in the ancient Skyspan ruins. That mysterious old man had told Jiang Chun that the drop of blood contained an inheritance. And that inheritance, now that he thought about it, was most likely the myriad transformations God King's inheritance. Today, Jiang Chun had obtained the myriad transformations art. That drop of blood essence in his soul seemed to be about to awaken. However, before this drop of blood essence could burn, the seal that the mysterious old man left on the blood essence suddenly erupted, forcefully suppressing that drop of blood essence. Who are you? At this moment, the bald old man shouted in a trembling voice. His head was covered in cold sweat as his body trembled. Even his voice carried a hint of fear. Just now, when the drop of blood essence in Jiang Chen's soul went berserk, the bald old man felt a terrifying pressure. It was as though he was facing a monarch. Even though the bald old man had the strength of a Dave's fifth decay, he nearly could not help but kneel down. I was distracted just now. Jiang Chen snapped out of his daze and said blindly, I saw a figure just now, so I tried to comprehend it. I didn't expect to make a mistake and nearly went berserk. Really? The bald old man was skeptical. However, when he saw that Jiang Chen had returned to normal, he did not know what to say. You've already obtained the great light technique. Don't be greedy, the bald old man said. Cultivate well and adjust yourself. You're about to enter the blood path. All right, Jiang Chen said with a nod. However, he was secretly laughing in his heart. Not only did he obtain the great light technique here, but he also obtained the 6 paths of reincarnation fist. And now, he had obtained the myriad transformations art. This place is really strange, Jiang Chen said softly. In such a dilapidated courtyard, there were figures of ancient experts constantly appearing. Furthermore, they were all practicing cultivation techniques and martial techniques. This was very strange. This place has existed since ancient times? Jiang Chen asked. I'm not sure. The bald old man shook his head. When my Heavenly Flow clan first came here, we discovered this small courtyard. After that, this courtyard became a forbidden area for the Heavenly Flow clan. Ordinary people are not allowed to enter. Is there anything else? Jiang Chen did not give up. He felt that this place was definitely not ordinary. In the past, there was an old man in a Taoist robe living in this small courtyard. He said that he was waiting for someone. However, some time ago, the old man said that he found that person and then disappeared, the bald old man said. Some time ago? How long ago? Jiang Chen asked. Not long ago. I think it was not long before the opening of the Desolate Gods training ground, the bald old man said. With that said, Jiang Chen's eyes flashed. He thought to himself, could it be when I was just reborn? With that thought, Jiang Chen continued asking, what did the old Taoist look like? His portrait is in that small room. Take a look for yourself, the bald old man said. Jiang Chen rushed into the small room. When he saw the portrait hanging on the dilapidated wall, Jiang Chen's heart was in turmoil. His eyes turned slightly red. Subconsciously, Jiang Chen knelt in front of the portrait and said softly, Master, is it really you? If others heard this, they probably would not believe it. Even if the gods in the sky heard it, they would not believe it. The great godly King Tian Chen had a master. Besides, when Jiang Chen ascended, why didn't his master ascend? Furthermore, there were rumors in the world that godly King Tian Chen never had a master. He only rose to prominence after entering a ruin by chance and obtaining a fortune. However, only Jiang Chen knew that he once had a master, a very powerful and mysterious master. Even when Jiang Chen became a godly king, he did not know what cultivation level his master had. Chapter 428. Jiang Chen's master had never shown his face in front of the world, and even warned Jiang Chen not to mention him to anyone. Therefore, although Jiang Chen was famous in the godless continent and became a legend, no one knew that he had a master. Now, in this mysterious small courtyard, Jiang Chen saw his master's portrait and learned that his master used to live here and was waiting for someone. Then, who was the person that Jiang Chen's master was waiting for? According to the time, it seemed that not long after Jiang Chen was reborn, his master left this small courtyard. Then, was he waiting for Jiang Chen? If he's really waiting for me, Jiang Chen thought, does it mean that master already knew that I would be reborn and return to the godless continent? Thinking of this, Jiang Chen's expression froze. If it was as he guessed, then who was his master? He could even predict that he would be reborn. What else did the owner of this courtyard say before he left? Not long after, Jiang Chen walked out of the small house and came to the bald old man. He said some strange things, saying that he wanted to go to the end of the Blood Sea, to an ancient city called the Eternal City, the bald old man said. Blood Sea? The Eternal City? Jiang Chun exclaimed in surprise. His heart was pounding. Jiang Chun had seen the Blood Sea and knew about the Eternal City. Back then, Jiang Chun and Nian Chang'e fell into the abyss of the desolate god training ground, and below was the Blood Sea. He also saw a sailboat of the Dong Sheng dynasty on the Blood Sea. He also learned that the destination of the sailboat was the Eternal City. However, Jiang Chun didn't go to the Eternal City back then. In that case, did this so-called Eternal Fortress really exist? Why did so many people want to go to the Eternal City? Eternal City, Jiang Chun whispered. Perhaps in this life, I will also go to the Eternal City. With that thought in mind, Jiang Chun didn't say anything else. He sat down cross-legged and began to cultivate. Time passed slowly until the 15th day was over. On this day, Tian Lu Xingyu and Tian Lu Xing Yu came to the small yard early in the morning. Jiang Chun and the bald old man had already packed up their things. After the few of them gathered, the bald old man led them directly into a teleportation array. As the scenery in front of them changed, they appeared in an ancient town in a few breaths. The ancient town wasn't very big, and there weren't many buildings. There was only a teleportation gate in the center of the ancient town. This is the entrance to the blood path? Tian Lu Xingyu asked. It was her first time here, so her eyes were filled with curiosity. Don't make a sound later. The more low-key, the better. The bald old man reminded. The gates of the bloody path will open at night. Right now, all the outstanding talents are still on the way. When there are more people later, don't cause any trouble. Those geniuses are not to be trifled with, and the sects behind them are not to be trifled with either. Jiang Chun and the others couldn't help but nod when they heard that. They all knew that those who dared to enter the bloody path were no weaklings. Moreover, the sects behind those people were extremely powerful and had a strong foundation. If they were to have a conflict with them there, it would most likely evolve into a war between the sects. Moreover, the godless mainland should be ushering in a glorious era now. In this great world, geniuses and monstrous geniuses appeared in multiples, and monstrous experts appeared out of nowhere. With Jiang Chen's cultivation, he dared not say that he could look down on his peers. The sword sect is here. The Zhongzhou dynasty is here too. The Nine-Li dynasty. The northern barbarian tribe. The southern region demon tribe. As time passed, there were more and more people in the ancient town. Jiang Chun even saw a few familiar faces, such as Li Fengze of the Zhongzhou dynasty, Wu Heng of the Nine-Li dynasty, the Ninth Princess, and Mu Xinglong. However, Jiang Chun didn't go over to greet them. After all, there were too many people here now, and Jiang Chun didn't want to be too eye-catching. Are you courting death? Suddenly, an angry roar came from not far away. Jiang Chun's expression became strange when he heard that voice. That was because Jiang Chun was very familiar with that voice. It was Wakako the Tyrant. This guy is still so overbearing and hot-tempered, Jiang Chun said with a bitter smile. He looked up and saw Wakako facing off against a young man. The spirit power on their bodies was raging, and their eyes were filled with anger. That young man has been quite famous on the godless mainland recently. It's said that he's a tyrant and has an overlord constitution. Someone said softly. Moreover, it's said that his elder brother is very famous and is wanted by the Martial Pavilion. They have issued a kill order. I don't know about the tyrant body or the tyrant body. I only know that the young man who is confronting the tyrant body is the young lord of Qi Lum Manor. Someone said in a deep voice, I'm afraid that guy's strength can be ranked in the top 500 among his peers. What? Top 500? So terrifying? Exclamations came from all around, and even Jiang Chun was slightly surprised. Top 500 seemed to be a low ranking, but there were too many geniuses of the same generation on the godless mainland. Roughly speaking, there were at least hundreds of thousands of geniuses of the same generation. To be able to rank in the top 500 among hundreds of thousands of people, it was needless to say how terrifying his strength was. However, Jiang Chen quickly calmed down because he believed in Wakako's strength. Long time no see. Your strength should have improved, right? Jiang Chen said softly. Boom! At this moment, Wakako and the young master of Qi Lu Manor had already started fighting. After the two of them punched each other on the spot, they directly flew into the sky and rushed above the clouds. Explosions were heard continuously, and blood dripped from the sky after a dozen breaths. After another half an hour, Wakako let out a long howl. Then, the young master of Qi Lu Manor fell from the clouds and landed on the ground with a loud crash. What young master of Qi Lu Manor? Ranking in the top 500. What a joke! Wakako landed slowly from the sky and stood in front of the young master of Qi Lu Manor. He said contemptuously, "If you meet my boss, you probably can't even block one move. This guy, is he causing trouble for me again?" When Jiang Chen heard this, he couldn't help but lean behind the bald old man. He didn't want to be seen by Wakako. "Your boss? Who does your boss think he is?" The young master of Qi Lu Manor said coldly. After getting up, he said to an old man beside him, "Kill him." "Yes." When the old man heard this, he immediately nodded. Then, the aura of a Deva's third decay erupted, and he pointed at Wakako's face. Facing the attack of a Deva's third decay powerhouse, no matter how strong Wakako was, he couldn't resist. "Help him." Jiang Chen saw this and hurriedly said to the bald old man, "I owe you a favor." Chapter 429. Qi Lu Manor was a first-rate sect that was strong enough to compete with many great sects and inheritances. The young master of Qi Lu Manor naturally brought his bodyguard with him this time. Now, the bodyguard of the young master of Qi Lu Manor attacked Wakako without saying a word. If Wakako was hit, he would definitely die on the spot. Since Ruo Xiao had left with Jiang Chen, she hadn't joined any sect or force. As a result, there weren't any strong people guarding her. Now, facing the attack of a celestial blight powerhouse, Wakako's expression changed drastically as he felt the aura of death. However, just when Wakako thought he was going to die today, the bald old man waved his hand, and a palm print fell in front of Wakako and turned into a mountain tablet. Boom! In the next second, the attack of the celestial blight powerhouse bombarded the mountain tablet. In an instant, an explosion shook the sky. Rays of mysterious light erupted from the mountain tablet, and the aura of celestial blight permeated the air, shocking everyone present. Celestial blight? The powerhouse standing at the top of the godless continent. Many people gasped, and some even exclaimed, "The patriarch of the celestial clan in the nether continent. Why did he attack? What's his relationship with Wakako?" At the same time as the exclamations, many voices of doubt were heard. At the same time, the young master of Qi Lu Manor and the celestial blight powerhouse's expression changed drastically. A trace of fear and dread appeared in their eyes. The young master of Qi Lu Manor first bowed to the bald old man and then asked, "Celestial ancestor, what are you?" "Junior, do you still have to ask me what I'm doing?" The bald old man said softly, staring at the powerhouse beside the young master of Qi Lu Manor, and said, "You can't touch this kid." "Okay." The celestial blight powerhouse nodded immediately and did not dare to say a word. This was because in this world where strength reigned supreme, as a weakling, he had no right to resist. Moreover, although Qi Lu Manor was strong, it was much weaker than the celestial clan. "Thank you, senior." At this moment, Wakako came back to his senses and looked at the bald old man. After thanking him, his eyes suddenly lit up. Then he shouted excitedly, "Boss?" "You're mistaken." Jiang Chen covered his face. He didn't want to be stared at by so many people. However, Wakako had already shouted "boss," and in front of so many people. Most importantly, Jiang Chen was still standing beside a Deva 5th Blight powerhouse. With all of these added together, Jiang Chen was really hard to ignore. He's Wakako, the tyrant's boss? The leader of the Chuanzuan sect, Jiang Chen? An abandoned son of the Jiang clan? That brat that the martial pavilion issued a kill orders. In the surroundings, an uproar sounded one after another, and some people's eyes flashed with a trace of hostility. This was because most of the sects and forces in the godless continent were attached to the martial pavilion. In this way, since the martial pavilion issued a kill order for Jiang Chun, the sects and forces under the martial pavilion would naturally be enemies with Jiang Chun. Boss, I knew you would come here too. Wakako looked excited. He ran over and gave Jiang Chun a very warm hug. Jiang Chun's face was dark. He felt that it was a trap to meet Wakako here. Can you keep a low profile? If it weren't for the celestial ancestor, you would be a corpse now, Jiang Chun said snappily. Also, don't mention my name in front of outsiders in the future. I didn't mention your name, but many people know that you're my boss, Wakako said with an aggrieved face. It's your reputation that's too great. Don't blame me. You're his boss? At this moment, the young master of Chi Lum Manor looked over with a trace of insidiousness in his eyes. Yes, so? Jiang Chun raised his eyebrows. He didn't have a good impression of the young master of Chi Lum Manor. Nothing, just asking, the young master of Chi Lum Manor said. After entering the blood path, I'll let you know how difficult it is to walk on it. Oh, how difficult? Jiang Chun said softly, but he despised him in his heart. Jiang Chun naturally knew that the blood path was difficult to walk on. However, Jiang Chun had already walked on it once in his previous life, and he had even walked to the end. In this life, as long as Jiang Chun was careful, it wouldn't be a problem to walk to the end of the blood path. Celestial Ancestor, the 15th day is up. Today, we'll take away Jiang Chun's life. At this moment, Ji Chongyang, the yin-yang emissaries, and the left and right emissaries appeared in the sky at the same time. Their gazes all landed on the bald old man. Yes, the 15th day is up. The bald old man nodded, shrugged, and asked, and then, Celestial Ancestor, you're a top expert and the Celestial Clan's ancestor. You have to keep your promise, the young emissary said in a deep voice. That's right. The Martial Pavilion has agreed to your conditions. Now that the 15th day has passed, I'm afraid that this kid's life will be handed over to the Martial Pavilion, right? The young emissary said. However, the bald old man smiled contemptuously and said, What if I don't agree? Don't agree? Then let's try it today. Since the Celestial Ancestor doesn't give the Martial Pavilion face, we don't need to give you face either. Ji Chongyang and the others shouted angrily. Then, they took out extremely fast array stones and scattered them in the air. In an instant, the array stones turned into a huge teleportation array, and rays of divine light shot up into the sky. 3 breaths later, a terrifying fluctuation exploded on the teleportation array, and a white-haired old man appeared on the teleportation array. If one looked carefully, this old man looked very ordinary, and even the vitality in his body was extremely weak. He was a person who was about to die. However, his aura was extremely terrifying, like a primordial beast. The Martial Pavilion's Grand Elder, Ju Chun. Didn't they say that Ju Chun failed the divine tribulation and died? Why is he still alive? At this moment, exclamations sounded from all around. Even the bald old man's eyes widened, as if he didn't dare to believe the person before him. Celestial Ancestor, long time no see. At this moment, Ju Chun walked out of the teleportation array, and his aged and weak voice sounded. He even staggered and walked step by step to the front of the bald old man. So strong. He failed the divine tribulation, but didn't die. How strong is this guy? Jiang Chun stood to the side in shock. This was because he could sense that the seemingly dying Ju Chun's strength was absolutely extraordinary. It was even to the extent that it was very likely that Ju Chun's strength surpassed the bald old man's. Ju Chun, you failed the divine tribulation and survived by luck. What are you doing here instead of recuperating and consolidating your body? The bald old man's eyes focused, and he said, If you fight me in your current state, you'll probably exhaust your last strand of vitality, and you'll die. Chapter 430. Ju Chun was once a powerhouse of the Martial Pavilion. Even on the godless continent, he was a household name. He failed the divine tribulation 100 years ago, and everyone thought that he would die. Who would have thought that he was actually still alive? However, although Ju Chun was still alive after failing the divine tribulation, the blood and qi in his body were almost dried up. Dried up blood and qi was equivalent to a person about to die. I've been in the Martial Pavilion all my life, and this life was given by the Martial Pavilion. Now that the Martial Pavilion wants to kill someone, how can I not help? Ju Chun said. Moreover, I haven't fought for a long time after failing the divine tribulation. I'll take this opportunity to stretch my legs. Once these words were spoken, the expressions of the surrounding people immediately changed. Some were puzzled, some were shocked, and some frowned as if thinking of other things. Dried up blood and qi can still fight? How did he survive after failing the divine tribulation? Everyone was puzzled, and someone even thought of something. Legend had it that the Martial Pavilion had once entered a ruin and obtained the inheritance of the ancient divine phoenix. What was the inheritance of the ancient divine phoenix? It was most famous for nirvana rebirth, and everyone also knew that there was only one outcome for failing the divine tribulation: death. However, Ju Chun survived. This made many people suspect that the rumor was true and that the Martial Pavilion really obtained the inheritance of the ancient divine phoenix. Moreover, this inheritance was in Ju Chun's hands. Otherwise, no matter how strong one was, it was impossible to survive after failing the divine tribulation. Ju Chun, are you forcing me to fight? Patriarch Tianlu said in a low voice, but he was somewhat worried. He wasn't worried that he would lose to Ju Chun, but who would protect Jiang Chun after he and Ju Chun fought? After all, he was the only expert from the Heavenly Flow clan who had come here this time. If he wasn't around, the Tianlu brothers wouldn't be targeted or killed because of their identities. But Jiang Chun would probably really be gone. Who dares to touch my son-in-law of White Emperor City? At this moment, White Emperor and Bai Jiangye appeared at the same time. The two of them stood in the air, their gazes locked onto Ji Chongyang and the others. Almost at the same time, the Blue Sky Confucian scholar also came here. He smiled at Jiang Chun and shouted loudly, "Let's fight. He's also my disciple's boss. I'll have to help him out." Just as the atmosphere was getting more and more oppressive, a man stepped through the air. Behind him, there were a few men and women. All of them had powerful auras. As soon as these people appeared, everyone in the Martial Pavilion was moved. 10 ghosts. The samurai demons are here as well. Arcane Ghost. Ji Chongyang and the others narrowed their eyes. They could not believe how a mere Jiang Chun managed to win over so many powerhouses. Whether it was the Heavenly Flow ancestor, the Blue Sky Confucian scholar, or the 10 ghosts, any one of them was enough to intimidate everyone. Furthermore, the 10 ghosts were all present today. Then, the door to the Blood Road will not be open for the time being, Ji Chongyang said coldly. His voice was so cold that many people felt a trace of killing intent. This was a killing intent that penetrated deep into the soul. It also represented the killing intent of the Martial Pavilion. White Emperor City, Billow Academy, Blue Sky Clan, Heavenly Flow Clan, 10 ghosts. Very good, very good. Ji Chongyang's eyes turned scarlet as he roared. Do you really think the Martial Pavilion is afraid of you? Celestial Realm cultivators, come quickly. At this moment, the young emissary waved his hand, and a token that was as bright as the sun flew into the air. With a long roar, the token shattered, and cracks appeared in the void. Within a few breaths, everyone felt extremely terrifying auras spreading out from the cracks. After a while, more than 30 Celestial Realm powerhouses stepped out from the cracks in the void. Among them, there were 2 Celestial Realm 5th Decay powerhouses, and there were also top Celestial Realm 4th Decay powerhouses. The rest were at least Celestial Realm 1st Decay powerhouses. The Martial Pavilion only wants to kill him, but we didn't expect all of you to get involved in this mess. The young emissary said coldly. In that case, today is not only the day the Blood Road opens, but also the day the Martial Pavilion starts a war with all of you. From today onwards, White Emperor City, Billow Academy, Blue Sky Clan, Heavenly Flow Clan, and 10 Ghosts will be included in the Martial Pavilion's must-kill list. The left emissary raised his eyebrows. Didn't you want to fight? From today onwards, we will fight. Do you think the Blue Sky Clan is afraid of the Martial Pavilion? The Blue Sky Confucian scholar curled his lips with a trace of contempt in his eyes. The Martial Pavilion, without Linlang Wentian, is weak after all. Oh, the Martial Pavilion is so powerful now that you dare to start a war with my Heavenly Flow clan? The Heavenly Flow patriarch snorted. Then he struck out with his palm and shattered the void. In the next moment, lightning flashed in the void, and several terrifying auras appeared. In 3 breaths' time, 3 Heaven's Decay powerhouses stepped out of the void. As soon as the 3 of them appeared, they came before the Heavenly Flow patriarch and bowed respectfully. They shouted in unison, Father, F*CK, a family of 4. All of them are F*King Heaven's Decay powerhouses. The Heavenly Flow patriarch is the leader, and his 3 sons are known as the 3 dragons. The strongest combat power of the Heavenly Flow clan, the 4 Heaven's Decay powerhouses, have gathered. At this moment, the expressions of Ji Chongyang and the others changed drastically, and a trace of seriousness flashed in their eyes. This was because the Martial Pavilion only had 3 Heaven's Decay powerhouses, including Juchun. On the Heavenly Flow clan side, just this clan alone had 4 Heaven's Decay powerhouses. If a fight were to break out, the Martial Pavilion would most likely be defeated. However, the Martial Pavilion had a deep foundation. If they really fought, they might not be able to defeat the other party. I am the leader of the Holy Light Cult. I am willing to help the Martial Pavilion. At this moment, a mysterious light descended from the sky, and then a man in a white robe and covered in holy light appeared. The aura on his body was very calm, and it even gave off a gentle feeling. However, no one present dared to underestimate him. This was because this person was the leader of the Holy Light Cult, Heaven's Decay Powerhouse. What should come will come. Jiang Chun sighed softly. It seems that the Master God of Light has already contacted his descendants on the Godless Continent and plans to kill me on the Godless Continent. The Holy Light Cult was the legacy left behind by the Master God of Light. Now that the leader of the Holy Light Cult had suddenly appeared and decided to help the Martial Pavilion, Jiang Chun could guess the meaning behind this. I am the leader of the Dark Shrine. I am also willing to help the Martial Pavilion. At this moment, another person arrived. This person was surrounded by black fog, giving off a sinister feeling. Moreover, all the light around him had been swallowed up like a black hole. Chapter 431. The Inheritance of the Master God of Darkness. Murderous intent flashed in Jiang Chen's eyes. He clenched his fist, and his bones cracked. That was because if the Master God of Darkness had not betrayed him in the 9 heavens, Jiang Chun would not have died. By then, the Lord of Darkness had also contacted his inheritance on the Godless Continent, and he had issued a divine decree to send the Lord of Darkness over to kill Jiang Chun. Kid, this matter is getting out of hand. The bald old man sighed, and a trace of helplessness and bitterness flashed in his eyes. He wanted to protect Jiang Chun, but there was nothing he could do in the current situation. If it was just against the Martial Pavilion, the Heavenly Flow clan would naturally not be afraid. But now, 2 top inheritances on the Godless Continent, the Holy Light Cult and the Dark Shrine, had appeared at the same time and joined forces with the Martial Pavilion. As such, the Heavenly Flow clan alone would not be able to protect Jiang Chun. Can we open the blood path? Jiang Chun asked in a low voice. As long as he entered the blood path, no matter how many people wanted his life, it would have nothing to do with him. But unfortunately, the key to opening the blood path was in the hands of the Martial Pavilion. If the Martial Pavilion did not open the blood path, this path would not open. Now that Limlang Wentian was not around, the affairs of the Martial Pavilion were basically handled by Ji Chongyang. Then, the key to opening the blood path was most likely in Ji Chongyang's hands. However, it was basically impossible to snatch the key from Ji Chongyang's hands. At least, with Jiang Qin's strength, it was impossible. Most importantly, the Holy Light Cult and the Dark Shrine, two giants, had arrived and joined forces with the Martial Pavilion. As such, the Heavenly Flow clan ancestor and the others were very wary, and the possibility of them taking action was very small. Furthermore, it was already good enough that they could save Jiang Qin's life. What's wrong with the Martial Pavilion? They actually mobilized so many people for a young kid. I remember that the Holy Light Cult and the Dark Shrine did not have a good relationship with the Martial Pavilion in the past. Today, these two giants appeared at the same time and joined forces with the Martial Pavilion. Everyone was puzzled. They couldn't understand why the Martial Pavilion had to make things difficult for a Heaven Realm brat. What was even more puzzling was, where did this little brat get so many experts to protect him? Could it be that he was really that popular? Everyone, long time no see. Just as old ancestor Tian Lu and the others were feeling fearful, a soft voice drifted over. Then, a man with demonic aura and an evil smile appeared on his face. Beside him, 100 ghosts were wailing, and a sea of blood was floating. Above his head, there was a flame that seemed to be the fire of hell burning. Devil Sect's sect leader. This fellow, isn't he unable to leave the Devil Sect? At that moment, the eyes of the Holy Light Church's churchmaster, the Dark Hall's master, and the others narrowed as their bodies tensed up. As for Jiang Chun, he looked even more confused. Jiang Chun had been to the Devil Sect before. It was also there that Jiang Chun found the 9 Netherworld Phoenix. It was also there that Jiang Chun met the Devil Sect sect leader, Mo Yuan. Jiang Chun knew that Mo Yuan was very strong. However, after the battle with Limlang Wentian, Mo Yuan was defeated and was forced to make a blood oath that he would not leave the Devil Sect unless he ascended. Now, this fellow actually broke the blood oath and came to the ancient town. That's right. Anyway, this fellow broke the blood oath back then, causing his patriarch to protect him in the divine world of the 9 heavens. Now that he broke the blood oath again, it's fine, Jiang Chun muttered. The days when Limlang Wentian wasn't around are really comfortable. Mo Yuan smiled, but his smile gave off an extremely evil feeling. Mo Yuan, what are you doing here? Back then, you made a blood oath that you would never leave the Devil Sect. Ji Chongyang and the others shouted angrily. Aren't you afraid of the backlash from the blood oath? Backlash? Mo Yuan raised his eyebrows and said disdainfully, the one who suffered the backlash wasn't me. Back then, I made a blood oath in the name of the founder of my Devil Sect. Even if I suffered the backlash, the one who suffered the backlash was also the founder of the Devil Sect. It had nothing to do with me. Big brother, do you know that because of your blind blood oath, your Devil Sect's founder was slaughtered in the divine world of the 9 heavens? Jiang Chun rolled his eyes. Having this kind of disciple and grand disciple, he could be considered unlucky. All right, I forgot to tell you guys. This time, I came here for nothing else but him. Mo Yuan pointed at Jiang Chun and said, this kid is pretty good. I've known him for a long time. What? Mo Yuan also wants to protect Jiang Chun? This guy is the #1 devil on the surface of the godless continent for thousands of years. Why would he protect Jiang Chun? Everyone was puzzled and even more shocked. However, Jiang Chun chuckled and looked up at Mo Yuan, who was standing in the air. He said, long time no see. Where's that featherless chicken? Mo Yuan asked. Jiang Chun was stunned. At a time like this, you don't care about me or yourself, but you care about the 9 Nether Phoenix? Are you kidding me? How can you be so careless? Boom! Suddenly, a loud explosion was heard. Before everyone could recover from their shock, they saw Mo Yuan directly make a move and suppress Ji Chongyang with a palm strike. Then, Mo Yuan pointed at Ji Chongyang's forehead and said mockingly, hand over the key to the blood path. You. Ji Chongyang's eyes narrowed, and a trace of fear flashed in his eyes. He never thought that Mo Yuan, who was chatting with Jiang Chun, would suddenly attack. Now his life was in Mo Yuan's hands. If he did not hand over the key to the blood path, with Mo Yuan's temperament, he would definitely lose his life. Mo Yuan, if you dare to kill him today, you won't be able to walk out of this ancient town. The envoy of the left shouted angrily. Not just you, but the entire demonic sect will be destroyed. The envoy of the dead said coldly, don't doubt the strength of the martial pavilion. Even if the pavilion master is not here, the martial pavilion still has the strength to destroy a sect. Demonic sect? Mo Yuan said mockingly. The demonic sect only exists in name. If you want to destroy it, go ahead. Then, Mo Yuan's expression darkened, and a trace of killing intent appeared on his face. He said, however, if you want to kill me, I'm afraid you're thinking too much. One must know that Mo Yuan had been defeated in the battle against Lin Lang Wentian. However, he had managed to survive. Why was that? That was because Lin Lang Wentian did not have the strength to kill Mo Yuan after the battle. Now that Lin Lang Wentian was not here, how could the others from the martial pavilion kill Mo Yuan? Father, the limelight has been stolen. Emperor Bai frowned and looked at Bai Jiangye. He asked, should Emperor Bai show his strength? Then why don't you call your grandfather over? Bai Jiangye asked. Emperor Bai's grandfather was Bai Jiangye's father. Chapter 432. White Emperor City's reputation in the godless continent could be said to be outstanding. On the surface, White Emperor City had two experts. One was Emperor Bai, and the other was Bai Jiangye. However, one must know that to support such a large sect, one could not only rely on two people. There had to be at least one supreme expert. The supreme expert of White Emperor City was Bai Jiangye's father, Bai Ninglo. However, Bai Ninglo had not made a move for a long time. All these years, he had been preparing for the gods' tribulation. Now, it would be difficult for Bai Ninglo to make a move. However, just as Bai Jiangye was about to summon Bai Ninglo, Bai Fengyu came with a young man. Fengyu? Emperor Bai frowned and said, you are not allowed to go to the blood path. Emperor Bai only had one daughter, and Bai Fengyu was the only descendant of White Emperor City. Hence, Emperor Bai would never allow Bai Fengyu to enter the blood path. But now, Bai Fengyu actually came. However, when he saw the young man beside Bai Fengyu, Emperor Bai's face darkened and said, it's all because you spoiled her. Cough, cough. Bai Jiangye's face was also strange. When the young man walked in front of him, he could not help but shout, Father. What? Bai Jiangye's father? This young man? Could he be Bai Ninglo? Many people cried out in surprise, and their expressions changed. Because, in many people's impression, Bai Ninglo was a hunchbacked old man. But now, how did he become a young man? I couldn't persuade her, so I could only come and take a look. Bai Ninglo smiled bitterly and said, who is my great-granddaughter's man? It's that idiot. Emperor Bai's face darkened and said in a muffled voice, that idiot has always refused to marry Fengyu, as if marrying Fengyu is a loss for him. Oh, there's such a thing? Bai Ninglo raised his eyebrows and said coldly, then kill him. Bai Fengyu's face changed, and she shook Bai Ninglo's arm and said coquettishly, grandfather, if you do anything, I will run away from home. I say, what are you doing here? Mo Yuan suddenly opened his mouth and looked at Bai Ning Tower. Do you think I can't handle this alone? Oh, so it's Mo Yuan. Bai Ninglo was surprised. Long time no see. That's right, it's been a long time, Mo Yuan said. How about we go all out today? I'm afraid I can't do it today. Bai Ninglo smiled and said, today, I'm here to see my great-granddaughter's man and also to transcend the tribulation. As soon as these words were spoken, the expressions of the crowd changed again and again. Bai Ninglo was already at the fifth decay of the celestial being. With his cultivation, what tribulation could he possibly transcend? Naturally, it was the tribulation of becoming a deity. Everyone from the martial pavilion, Do you want to go through the tribulation with me? Bai Ninglo said with a smile. His gaze swept over the many cultivators of the martial pavilion, and then locked onto Ju Chun. Ju Chun, you once failed to transcend the tribulation. Why don't you come and see how I transcend the tribulation? Take it as me giving you a stroke of good fortune. If you can transcend the second tribulation, it'll save you a lot of trouble, Bai Ninglo said. Of course, as a condition, you have to open the bloody path and send him in. Hearing this, Ju Chun shook his head and said coldly, I survived. If I transcend the second tribulation, I'll definitely succeed. Why would I need your guidance? So there's no room for discussion? Bai Ninglo was still full of smiles, but a trace of killing intent flashed in his eyes. After a pause, Bai Ninglo raised his hand, and a terrifying aura erupted from his body. He said to Ju Chun, I think you don't need to transcend the second tribulation. Boom! As soon as he finished speaking, Bai Ninglo's palm pressed down. The palm print was very ordinary, and it only emitted a normal glow. However, when the palm landed, the people around him felt like they were hallucinating. It was as if the end of the world had arrived. This palm seemed to be able to destroy everything. Ju Chun was deeply affected. His pupils constricted, and his body trembled. They were both at Heaven's Blight Stage 5, but the difference in strength between him and Bai Ninglo was not just a little bit. Moreover, Ju Chun's blood chi was dried up, and his combat strength was not at its peak. He could not block Bai Ninglo's palm at all. Ji Chongyang. At this moment, Ju Chun did not dare to hesitate. He hurriedly shouted, Hand over the key. Seeing that Ju Chun was about to die at Bai Ninglo's hands and Ji Chongyang's life was also in Mo Yuan's hands, he did not dare to hesitate. With a wave of his hand, he threw out an ancient token. Wouldn't it have been fine if you had done this earlier? Bai Ninglo said with a smile. After removing the palm print, he threw the key to Bai Jianye and said, Go, open the bloody path and send them in. Okay. Bai Jianye nodded. He glanced at Jiang Chun and said, Why aren't you going? Okay. Jiang Chun nodded and followed eagerly. At the same time, all the paragons and monster incarnates advanced one after another and arrived at the door of the bloody path. The next moment, the door of the bloody path opened and a beam of mystic light shot into the clouds as if it wanted to pierce the heavens. Behind the mystic light was a blurry image. The entrance of the bloody path was inside. Jiang Chun stood at the entrance of the bloody path and turned to everyone. Wait for me to return. Don't worry and go. Qin Kong Kong said, As long as Lin Lang Wentian is not around, a mere martial pavilion won't be able to do anything to us. I'll wait for you to return. Bai Fingyu's eyes reddened. She knew how dangerous the bloody path was. However, she firmly believed that Jiang Chun would definitely return alive. Yes, Jiang Chun smiled and nodded. Eventually, a look of determination flashed through his eyes as he took a step forward and entered the bloody path. Thereafter, all the paragons in the ancient town entered one after another. More than 10 breaths later, only a few people were left in the initially crowded ancient town. Hey, I don't get it. Why does the martial pavilion have to make things difficult for such a young brat? Emperor Bai asked with a frown. This question not only troubled him, but also many others. Grudges aren't formed overnight. They're accumulated over time. Ji Chongyang said, If we're talking about the cause, it's because Jiang Chun crippled the pavilion master's illegitimate son. Just such a small matter? Bai Fingye was speechless. Was this even a small matter for the martial pavilion? If it was crippled, then so be it. With the martial pavilion's foundation, restoring Lin Lang Wentian's illegitimate son's cultivation would be a piece of cake. Why did they have to make such a big deal out of it? I'm afraid you guys don't know yet. The Radiant Religion Master said in a low voice. This person is the reincarnation of Tian Chun. The Radiant Master God has already decreed that he must be killed on the godless continent at all costs. The Darkness Master God has also decreed it. The Dark Palace Master said. At the same time, Ju Chen nodded and said, The martial pavilion has already known about this. In other words, when he was in the holy world of the nine heavens, he was the sworn enemy of the martial god, the radiant master god, and the darkness master god. Is that why you guys want to kill him here at all costs? Mo Yuan came to a realization. Of course, Emperor Bai and the rest were indifferent because they already knew about Jiang Chen's identity. Now, they were just announcing Jiang Chen's identity to the public. P.S. When Jiang Chen returns from the bloody path, his identity will be known to the world. What will happen then? Everyone, please look forward to it. Chapter 433. Jiang Chen's identity could not be kept a secret after all. It would not be long before the entire godless mainland knew that Jiang Chen was Tianqin's supreme being from 3,000 years ago. But so what? The deities of the holy world of the nine heavens could not come down. Jiang Chen only needed to deal with the enemies of the godless mainland. As for what would happen after he ascended to the holy world of the nine heavens, Jiang Chen did not think about it for the time being. At this moment, the holy light religion master and the rest were still in the ancient town. They were facing each other, and it seemed like a war was about to break out. Forget it. Since things have come to this, we can only wait until he comes back from the blood road. Ji Chongyang sighed. He might not be able to come back alive from the blood road, the left emissary said with contempt. However, no one believed the left emissary's words. How could the Tianqin Supreme being not be able to walk out of the blood road alive? If that was the case, the two words Tianqin were too light. The ninth city? At this moment, in the bloody road, Jiang Chen glanced around and realized he had arrived at the ninth city of the bloody road. The blood road was formed by connecting many small worlds. After entering the blood road, one would be assigned to a city. The first small world of the blood road had a total of 10 cities. Jiang Chen was assigned to the ninth city. In the first small world of the blood road, there was an old saying. Since ancient times, the 9 cities produced demons, and the blood road's disaster arose in the 9 cities. From this, it could be seen that the 9 cities had the most demons and geniuses in the first small world of the blood road. They were also the strongest. In his previous life, when Jiang Chen entered the blood road, although he did not enter the 9th city, he heard about some things. At that time, there were 30,000 people in the 9th city. In the end, there were less than 10,000 people who could come out of the 9th city. Since ancient times, the 9 cities produced demons, and the blood road's disaster arose in the 9 cities. Jiang Chen said softly and laughed. He thought that the blood road's journey this time would be exciting. Boom! Suddenly, there was a loud explosion from not far away. Jiang Chen looked over and saw that the two youths had already started fighting. Taking a closer look, he saw that the cultivation of these two youths had reached the upper Holy King level. Moreover, the aura that he exuded was much stronger than that of an ordinary upper-level sage. They've started fighting already? Jiang Chen whispered. He stood in place and watched the show. But not long after, a killing intent suddenly descended. Jiang Chen was very sharp, and his figure moved horizontally to the side. It was also at that moment that a cold light shot past where Jiang Chen had been standing. Jiang Chen, there are so many big shots protecting you outside. But here, let's see who can save you. At this moment, a black-robed young man stood before them with a ferocious look on his face. His eyes were filled with undisguised killing intent. He walked towards Jiang Chen, step by step. With every step he took, his aura grew stronger. By the time he was 10 meters away from Jiang Chen, his aura had already skyrocketed to the upper Holy King level. Moreover, there was a black fog surrounding him, as if it was a soul-devouring fog. Someone from the dark shrine? Jiang Chen raised his brows, and his eyes gradually turned cold. He said coldly, "Just nice. I have a score to settle with you. Lower-level heaven realm. You're already a dead man when you meet me." The young man from the dark shrine said disdainfully, "Today, I'll definitely kill you." Jiang Chen had a strange expression when he heard that. Do you know that sometimes people who talk too much usually die the earliest? Buzz! As soon as he finished speaking, array patterns appeared on the ground where the young man was standing. The array patterns exploded, and a large killing array was formed. In an instant, within the array, there were layers of saber light and sword shadows. Fire, ice, and lightning raged. There was even the shadow of a nine-headed snake that appeared and bit towards the young man. "Array master?" the young man exclaimed. He was too careless. However, he was very confident. After all, he was a prodigy, and his cultivation was above Jiang Chen's. In his eyes, this array could be broken by force. However, before he could make a move, Jiang Chen formed a seal with both hands and pressed his palm on the ground. Roar! Accompanied by a furious roar, a battle spirit walked out of a door of light. Without saying a word, he rushed into the array with a worn-out long saber in his hand and slashed down at the young man. Poof! After a few breaths, the young man was no match for the battle spirit. He was struck by the lightning in the array and directly exploded to death. After killing the young man, Jiang Chen's eyes narrowed slightly as he felt dozens of murderous intents around him. However, Jiang Chen did not make a move, and the dozens of people with murderous intents did not make a move either. This was because they had all seen Jiang Chen make a move and knew that Jiang Chen's combat power was very strong. However, these people were not confident that they could kill Jiang Chen. It seems like there are many inheritors of the Master God of Light and the Master God of Darkness in the Ninth City. Jiang Chen thought to himself as he sensed a few auras of the martial god. It was obvious that those who were hostile towards Jiang Chen were the descendants or inheritors of the gods who were hostile to him. Jiang Chen, I'm afraid you won't be able to walk out of the Ninth City alive. At that moment, a young man in a red robe walked over step by step. Behind him, there were 3 other young men with terrifying auras. Their cultivations were all upper holy kings, the inheritors of the Master God of Nether Flame. Jiang Chen raised his eyebrows and said mockingly, "Do you think you can kill me with just the few of you? The few of us might not be able to, but what if we add them?" The young man said. Then, he saw many people walking over from Jiang Chen's left and right. These people were either from the Martial Pavilion or from the sects and forces under the Martial Pavilion. Of course, there were also some inheritors and descendants of the gods who were hostile to him. Jiang Chen did not count them. He roughly estimated that there were more than 30 holy kings, more than 10 sages, and 1 supreme sage around him. Jiang Chen felt a headache coming on. He had just entered the Ninth City, and there was already a huge battle. Lower heavenly state against so many holy state geniuses. He's definitely going to die. There were many people around who were watching the show. They had already seen through Jiang Chen's life and death. No one thought that Jiang Chen would survive. After all, not only was the difference in cultivation, but the difference in numbers was also huge. Some people say that ants can kill an elephant with enough strength. However, that's not the case in my opinion. Jiang Chen said softly as the corners of his mouth curled up. There are some people whom you can't fight against. For example, the Azure Dragon who overlooked the land could not escape the judgment of the heavens. I don't want to be the Azure Dragon or the Azure Dragon. I want to be the heavens and even beyond the heavens. Jiang Chen's voice became softer and softer. In the end, Jiang Chen's body shook and the power of heaven and earth exploded. Numerous doppelgangers appeared around him. Do you think you can beat me in terms of numbers? Jiang Chen raised his eyebrows. After hundreds of doppelgangers appeared, they charged toward the group of people. Chapter 434. Doppelganger Technique? Small tricks. Someone said with contempt. Most people knew about doppelganger techniques and knew that the doppelganger created by the doppelganger technique did not have any destructive power. It could only confuse the opponent. However, when these doppelganger rushed into the crowd, screams were heard. These doppelganger were vivid and lifelike, as if they were made of flesh and blood. Every time they attacked, there was a majestic power of heaven and earth. There were even a few doppelganger that formed seals with both hands, displaying arrays, restrictions, and even spells. This is not a doppelganger technique? Someone exclaimed. A punch was hit in the chest by a doppelganger, and his entire chest caved in. Blood spurted out from his mouth and nose, and there were even pieces of his internal organs. Doppelganger technique? Jiang Chen raised his eyebrows and sneered. Did I say that this is a doppelganger technique? This is an avatar. This is the ultimate skill of the spiritual monkey clan of the demon clan. How did you, a human, learn it? A young man in a black robe exclaimed. The avatar of the spiritual monkey clan of the demon clan could be called an ultimate skill. This martial skill, even in the divine world of the nine heavens, was considered top-notch. However, the spiritual monkey clan would never spread this martial skill. Even within the spiritual monkey clan, only pure-blooded spiritual monkeys were qualified to cultivate it. Compared to the doppelganger technique, this avatar was much more powerful. The doppelganger created by the doppelganger technique did not have any attacking power. However, the doppelganger created by the avatar had 90% of the original body's power. Of course, to support so many doppelganger, Jiang Chen needed to consume a large amount of power of heaven and earth, and even his essence, qi, and spirit. For ordinary people, even if they cultivated the avatar, it was very difficult to display it, and the duration would not be too long. Let's see how long you can last with so many doppelganger. Someone was very smart and wanted to delay Jiang Chen until Jiang Chen's power was exhausted. However, Jiang Chen, who had the heavenly star, had endless power in his body and would not be exhausted. At this moment, after Jiang Chen heard this, the corners of his mouth curled up slightly. He smiled and said, "Are there still many doppelgangers?" Buzz! The moment his voice fell, Jiang Chen's body shook, and another 100 doppelgangers appeared. At this moment, it was as if a sea of people had formed. Along with terrifying waves of energy, the people in the surroundings were drowned in an instant. Some were struggling, some were screaming, and some were already dead. Jiang Chen didn't show any mercy, because this was the path of blood, and everyone was his enemy. If he didn't kill others, others would kill him. Not to mention, this was the 9th city. Besides, these people had wanted to kill Jiang Chen in the first place. Since that was the case, what was the point of showing mercy? Waiting for death? Void! Just as the enemies around them were about to be killed, a soft shout came from afar. Then a ripple-like wave exploded. Wherever the ripples passed, Jiang Chen's avatar instantly disintegrated and turned into smoke. At this moment, Jiang Chen squinted his eyes and looked up at the city wall. He saw a black-clothed youngster there, staring at him with eagle-like eyes. The successor of the Void God religion? Jiang Chen frowned. Jiang Chen was quite wary of this sect. The Void God religion mainly cultivated the Void technique. According to legend, when cultivated to the peak, everything could be turned into nothingness. And the founder of this religion was now in the nine heavens divine world, in front of the Void Master God. Moreover, the Void Master God was also Jiang Chen's sworn enemy. Seems like I can't underestimate you. At this moment, only 2 of the people who wanted to kill Jiang Chen were still standing. The rest were either severely injured or dead. Among the 2 people, there was a young man in a purple robe. He had a smile on his face, and he was unharmed. Obviously, the attack that Jiang Chen used his doppelganger to attack previously didn't pose any threat to this young man. I can't underestimate you guys either. Jiang Chen smiled bitterly. This young man in purple robe was from the Zijin sect, and he was very strong. He should be a holy son of the Zijin sect. His cultivation had reached the upper level of a holy king, and the person standing beside the young man in purple robe was shining with a pure white light. He was from the Holy Light religion. These 2 people were very strong, enough to make Jiang Chen wary. If the successor of the Void God religion was added, Jiang Chen felt that today's battle would be very tricky. If the 3 of us attack you together, even if we win, I'm afraid we'll be laughed at by others. The young man in purple robe seemed to be in a dilemma. He looked at the young man beside him and said, "Why don't you attack first?" "Why should I attack first? I can't be bothered to attack a lower heaven realm ant." The successor of the holy light religion curled his lips and said with contempt, "I'm afraid of dirtying my hands. Since you guys aren't attacking, then I'll do it." At this moment, the Void Divine Cult's disciple flew over from the city wall. He landed in front of Jiang Chun in an instant, about 10 yards away. He squinted his eyes and smiled coldly. "If I can kill Tianqin's supreme being, I can brag about it for the rest of my life." "Ah, it seems like you all know who I am." Jiang Chun shrugged nonchalantly. He knew that his identity would be exposed sooner or later. But so what if it was exposed? This was the path of blood. There were no immortal realm warriors or heavenly beings. Here, it would be difficult for Jiang Chun to die, even if he wanted to. Once he walked out of the path of blood, his cultivation would skyrocket. By then, even if everyone in the world became his enemy, so what? By then, Jiang Chun would have nothing to fear. However, the only thing that gave Jiang Chun a headache was the 3 young men before him. Any one of these 3 people could be considered a famous top-notch elite. The most important thing was that the difference in cultivation between Jiang Chun and the 3 of them was too great. Tianqin's supreme being, who once dominated the godless continent, has fallen to such a state. How sad. The successor of the holy light religion mocked. "When you were alive, we were not even born yet. Now, I didn't expect the heavens to give us the chance to fight with the strongest person in the godless continent. It's a pity. No matter who you are, you will die here today." The young man from the Zijin sect mocked. When Jiang Chun heard that, he rubbed his ears and raised his eyebrows. He asked seriously, "Do you want to fight one-on-one with me? So many people are watching. You can't go back on your words." What a joke. "Of course, we will keep our words," the young man from the Zijin sect said in a low voice. "One-on-one is already giving you face. Under normal circumstances, we can't be bothered to fight with you. You are too weak," the successor of the holy light religion said. When Jiang Chun heard that, he was elated. "I'm weak? Is that really the case? Then let's take a good look." Chapter 435. Die. At that moment, the young man from the Nothing God cult said softly and casually struck out with his palm. He was very casual because he believed that with Jiang Chun's cultivation level, he would not be able to withstand his attack. Of course, Jiang Chun did not intend to take it head-on. When the palm print landed in front of Jiang Chun's figure suddenly disappeared. Even his aura had disappeared without a trace. Dark Master? The young man from the Nothing God cult frowned. The protective spiritual energy on his body surged as he scanned his surroundings like an eagle. Boom! However, no matter how vigilant he was, he could not detect Jiang Chun's presence or aura. In the next moment, there was a loud explosion. Jiang Chun had appeared above his head. At the same time, his fist landed heavily on the top of his head. Poof! Immediately, the young man spat out a mouthful of blood. His eyes widened, as if he could not believe that Jiang Chun could hurt him. "Don't stare at each other. This is basic," Jiang Chun teased. "Next, I'll let you understand how important my name is." "How dare you?" The young man was furious. He raised his hand and struck out with his palm. In his hand, the power of the void exploded. He wanted to turn Jiang Chun into nothingness. When Jiang Chun saw this, a serious look flashed across his eyes. He was rather wary of the power of the void. At that moment, Jiang Chun moved his body sideways and avoided the attack. At the same time, Chasing Heaven appeared in his hand. A brilliant sword ray slashed down at the young man. However, before the sword ray could reach the young man, it was dissolved by the power of the void. It turned into nothingness and did not even leave a trace of energy behind. This annoyed Jiang Chun. The power of the void was too strange and tricky to deal with. However, he was merely annoyed. "I can turn everything into nothingness. I'm already in an invincible position when fighting with you," the young man said arrogantly. "If you know what's good for you, then end your own life. Otherwise, if you fall into my hands, I'll make you wish you were dead." "Take my own life?" Jiang Chun said mockingly, Sorry, I don't know what these words mean. Boom! As soon as he finished speaking, Jiangchen swept out with chasing heaven, and a desolate aura filled the air. This was the inheritance of the desolate god. The supreme sword will desolation. Humph! All attacks will turn into nothingness before my power of nothingness. The young man said disdainfully. He struck out with his palm again, and the power of the void was like a great river that flooded towards the sword light. Boom! Boom! However, this time, Jiangchen's sword light did not turn into nothingness. The sword light shone brightly with the aura of desolation. When it collided with the power of nothingness, it seemed to have gained the upper hand. Seeing this, Jiangchen laughed bitterly. If his cultivation level was not too low, the power of desolation in his sword would have been enough to turn his opponent's power of nothingness into dust. What? What kind of power is that? It can go against the power of nothingness. The power of desolation, the inheritance of the desolate god. Around them, there were cries of surprise, and some people's eyes were filled with greed. The power of desolation could turn everything into desolation. Its true meaning was very similar to the power of nothingness. It was so much so that if these two powers were to compete, it would be impossible to determine who was the victor. However, the power of nothingness of the Nothing God cult was not passed down to outsiders. Ordinary people could not cultivate it. As such, if one could obtain the power of desolation that could go against the power of nothingness, that would be great. If I can obtain the power of desolation and merge it with the power of nothingness, my strength will surpass the saint. The young man's eyes were burning with greed. Oh, so you are not the most powerful disciple of the Nothing God cult, Jiangchen said in surprise. Don't worry, after I kill you and obtain the power of desolation, I will be the saint of the Nothing God cult, the young man said confidently. Boom! However, in the next moment, when a dazzling sword ray landed, the young man's expression changed drastically. The sword ray was like a ray of light that could split open the sky. Even the void was cut open. Under the sword, it was like the judgment of the heavens. The young man's power of nothingness was instantly dispersed. At the same time, Jiangchen charged forward. The chasing sky sword in his hand shone with divine light, and boundless sword chi exploded. Emperor's vines. In an instant, before the young man could react, Jiangchen summoned the Emperor's vines. Purple gold vines exploded and wrapped around the young man's body like chains. Then, Jiangchen charged in front of him and swung his sword down, splitting the young man's head open. What? He's dead? At that moment, the crowd exclaimed again. No one could believe that a genius disciple of the Nothing God cult had been killed just like that, as expected of Tian Chun. However, just as everyone thought that the young man had been killed, his body turned into nothingness. After a few breaths, the young man's body reformed on the other side and was intact. He used the power of nothingness to turn his body into nothingness and avoided Jiang Chen's sword. Someone revealed the truth. Good use of the power of nothingness, Jiang Chen said with a smile. However, his hands did not stop moving. He stabbed the chasing sky sword into the ground and formed a seal with both hands. A huge array was formed immediately. After the array was formed, everyone felt that the chi of heaven and earth around them had become very thin. They could not even use half of their strength. It was a suppressive array. What can a mere array do to me? The young man was fearless. The power of nothingness exploded again, trying to turn the array into nothingness. However, before he could do anything, Jiang Chen's body shone with Buddhist light. He shouted, "All living things are equal." Wang! With a loud sound, the Buddhist light shone down and enveloped the young man's body. At that moment, the young man's face changed drastically. His cultivation level had dropped to the lower heaven realm, the same as Jiang Chen's. A secret technique of the Buddhist sect. All living things are equal. Someone exclaimed. A cold light flashed in the eyes of the Buddhist sect members. They thought that there was a traitor among the Buddhist sect who had leaked the secret technique. Let's see what you have to fight me when we are at the same cultivation level. At that moment, Jiangchen roared. The chasing sky sword in his hand slashed down. The power of desolation was mixed with the power of Hades, firmament, and heaven and earth. Together with a sword beam, it slashed the young man's body. The young man was shocked. The power of nothingness exploded in his body. He wanted to turn himself into nothingness to avoid the sword. However, Jiang Chen's sword was too fast. Before the young man's body could turn into nothingness, it had already slashed him. Pwah! With a few muffled sounds, the young man's body exploded. His flesh and blood rained down. Following that, the power of desolation reduced him to dust and dissipated with the wind. Chapter 436. This time, the young man from the Nothing God cult was truly dead. He's so strong. He's mastered too many martial arts techniques. He even knows Buddhist secret techniques. This person can't be judged by ordinary standards. The sky prides who were hiding in the dark felt their hearts clench as they felt a sense of pressure. At the same time, the successor of the Holy Light cult and the disciple of the Zijin sect frowned as they felt the pressure in their hearts increase. Cough, cough. We agreed to fight one-on-one. You can't go back on your word. Jiang Chen coughed a few times and said, "So many people are watching. Who wants to fight you one-on-one?" The young man from the Zijin sect glared at him. Then, he looked at the young man beside him and said, "Shall we fight together?" Nonsense. The successor of the Holy Light cult snapped. "If we fight one by one, we'll all be finished. You guys, this isn't appropriate, is it?" Jiang Chen muttered. His body was indeed very honest. He was already prepared for battle. Boom! Boom! In the next moment, the two of them charged forward. One of them was surrounded by a purplish gold light, like a king. A holy light appeared in the other's palm and turned into a sharp sword. It went straight for Jiang Chen's face. The purplish gold light turned into clusters of flames in the air. The scorching heat caused the surrounding air to distort. "What are you doing? We're all sky prides. We should fight fairly. I, Jiang Chen, can't stand your way of doing things." Suddenly, a righteous voice that was full of righteousness came from afar. Then, in the blink of an eye, a sword light pierced through the air and dissipated the attack of the successor of the Holy Light cult. Jiang Chen was dumbfounded by such a sight. Even the Zijin sect's disciples were dumbfounded. What's going on? Why is there someone interfering? Fine, even if there's someone interfering, shouldn't they be targeting Jiang Chen? Why is it the other way around? My name is Jiang Haoren, disciple of the Hao Qi sect. At this moment, a white-clothed youngster was standing in front of Jiang Chen. He was holding a 7-foot-long azure sword. Before the crowd could speak, Jiang Haoren said in a righteous tone, "We are all geniuses of the same generation. If there's a grudge between us, we can settle it fairly. This Jiang really can't stand your behavior. Today's matter. This Jiang must have a hand in it no matter what." Jiang Haoren said, "Is he an idiot? So silly. Stop messing around. Everyone in the Noble Spirit sect is like that. They cultivate a breath of righteousness. Even if the people of the Hao Qi sect do something stupid, don't be surprised. That's their basic behavior." Around them, many people covered their eyes. They were well aware of the Hao Qi sect's disciples' behavior and character. Jiang Chen, on the other hand, had a dumbfounded look on his face, as if he was standing in the wind. He didn't expect to meet a disciple of the Hao Qi sect here. Moreover, this disciple of the Hao Qi sect seemed to want to help him. Fellow cultivator, we're not related to each other. You'd better not help me, lest you get into trouble. Jiang Chen reminded him, "I've been ordered to be killed by the martial pavilion. Now many top sects want my life. If you interfere, aren't you afraid of implicating the Hao Qi sect? Our Hao Qi sect is about reason." Jiang Haoren said seriously, "Reason is the Hao Qi. A breath of righteousness obliterates all the unfairness and darkness in the world. Come on, I don't want to talk to an idiot like you. Jiang Chen's face was full of black lines. He secretly thought that this guy was even more stupid than Nian Chang'e. Nian Chang'e's stupidity was faked. Of course, sometimes he was really stupid. But this Jiang Haoran in front of him was really stupid. What's the use of having a head full of righteousness and Hao Qi? Don't mention it. The people of the Hao Qi sect are so stubborn. Once they decide on something, there's no room for discussion. Around them, many people had strange expressions. They sympathized with the two youths from the Zijin sect and the Divine Light cult. Because now that Jiang Haoran was here, no matter what, Jiang Haoran would not let the two of them deal with Jiang Chen alone. Jiang Haoran, do you want to die? The youth from the Zijin sect shouted angrily. You're the only successor left in the Hao Qi sect. Aren't you afraid of dying here? What Hao Qi sect? You uphold the righteousness of heaven and earth. In the end, even your own sect is about to be destroyed by you. The disciple from the Divine Light cult curled his lips and said, I advise you not to interfere. Otherwise, I'm afraid your last disciple of the Hao Qi sect will be gone. The disciples of the Hao Qi sect only respect the righteousness in their hearts. Jiang Haoran said seriously, and through a don't worry, look at Jiang Chen. Jiang Chen was stunned and didn't know what to say for a moment. Why should I talk to an idiot like you? At this moment, the youth from the Zijin sect shouted angrily and said to the youth from the Divine Light cult, You go deal with Jiang Chen. Let me deal with this idiot. Hurry up, the youth from the Divine Light cult said. As soon as he finished speaking, he dashed forward with a holy radiance that soared into the sky. He dashed toward Jiang Chen. Fellow cultivator, be careful. I'll block him for you. Jiang Haoran said to Jiang Chen and charged toward the youth from the Zijin sect. Light technique. At this moment, the youth from the Divine Light cult formed a seal with both hands and a pure white holy radiance burst out. Within the holy radiance, there was a terrifying energy fluctuation. It was like a bright sun. Light technique? Jiang Chen's expression was strange. He himself had mastered the great light technique. The light technique in front of him was simply an acrobatic skill for Jiang Chen. It was not worth mentioning. Bang! In the next moment, Jiang Chen raised his hand and waved, directly shattering the holy radiance in a powder. At the same time, Jiang Chen formed a seal with his other hand. A pure white light, full of divine light, burst out from his palm and directly blasted through the chest of the youth from the Divine Light cult. Puff! A mouthful of blood spurted out from the youth's mouth. He lowered his head and looked at the bloody hole in his chest. A trace of surprise flashed in his eyes, but there was no trace of panic or fear. Gift of light! The youth shouted softly and formed a seal with his hands. The holy radiance sprinkled down, and in an instant, the injury he suffered was healed. Return Guang's favor. Today, I'll grant you relief. Jiang Chen said in a sarcastic tone. His body flashed like a ghost. When he appeared again, he was already standing in front of the youth. An obscure aura spread out from his body. The long saber in his hand slashed down with obscure runes. In an instant, the youth's head was cut off. If you had mastered the great light technique, you could have fought with me. But your minor light technique, what is it? Jiang Chen thought to himself. He waved his sleeves and wiped off the bloodstains on them. Then his gaze fell on the youth from the Zijin sect. Chapter 437. This matter, should we just let it go? A trace of panic flashed in the eyes of the Zijin sect youth, and he said to Jiang Haoran, I admit defeat. That's for the best. Jiang Haoran nodded. However, as far as Jiang Chen was concerned, how could he let this matter go so easily with, I admit defeat? It was obviously impossible. If you knew this would happen, you wouldn't have done it in the first place. Jiang Chen's eyes narrowed. He had already killed two, so he didn't care about killing one more. However, just as Jiang Chen was about to make a move, he saw Jiang Chen turn to look at him and say, Fellow cultivator, since this person has already admitted defeat, then let's just let it go. Jiang Chen was depressed. He wanted to ask out loud, "What does this have to do with you? Are you a peacemaker?" "I don't need you to interfere in my business," Jiang Chen said in a deep voice. "Fellow cultivator, my Haoqi sect is particular about reason. Don't be unreasonable, or don't blame me for being rude," Zhang Haoran said seriously, full of righteousness. Hearing this, Jiang Chen's face darkened. After sizing up Jiang Haoran, he couldn't help but come to a conclusion in his heart. This fool, I can't beat him. Jiang Chen was knowledgeable and had sharp senses. At this moment, after sizing up Jiang Haoran carefully, he seemed to be unmoved on the surface, but he was quite speechless in his heart. That was because Jiang Haoran was very strong. Jiang Chen couldn't beat him. Jiang Chen admitted defeat. However, was he going to let this youth from the Zijin sect go? Wasn't that raising a tiger would invite calamity? Then I want to spar with him. This matter should have nothing to do with you, right? Jiang Chen asked tentatively. It's not a life and death battle. Okay, that's fine. Jiang Haoran nodded and said, as cultivators, it's inevitable to spar with each other. Hey, Jiang Haoran, are you blind? This guy obviously wants to kill me, and you still agreed to let him spar with me? The youth from the Zijin sect was anxious. Although it was said to be a spar, if they really fought, could it still be called a spar? He was very clear that Jiang Chen was determined to kill him now. However, Jiang Haoran was stubborn. He then retreated a few steps and spoke to Jiang Chen and the young man from the Zijin sect. This time around, I will be the host. Don't worry, there won't be any deaths. Wait, the young man from the Zijin sect hurriedly said. He didn't want to spar with Jiang Chen. However, just as he finished speaking, he saw that Jiang Chen had already rushed in front of him. What are you waiting for? Today, I'll spar with you, Jiang Chen said mockingly. Black and white light appeared on his body as he slashed down with his heaven-chasing power. The power of desolation burst forth like an upside-down waterfall, drowning the young man. At the same time, Jiang Chen's body shook, and the power of heaven and earth in his body turned into millions of sword rays, instantly piercing through the young man. Damn, that was fast. He was afraid that Jiang Chen would stop him. Jiang Chen did it on purpose. He killed the disciple of the Zijin sect with lightning speed. How ruthless. It was supposed to be a spar, but he didn't even give the other party a chance to live, the crowd exclaimed. As for Jiang Chen, it was as if he didn't hear anything. He turned to look at Jiang Haoran and said awkwardly, Sorry, I didn't stop in time and accidentally killed him. You said it was supposed to be a spar. Why did you kill him? Jiang Haoran said in a low voice. A hint of anger flashed in his eyes. I promised both parties that there wouldn't be any deaths. It's my fault. I didn't pay attention. Jiang Chen hurriedly admitted his mistake. He was very obedient. There was no other way. Jiang Chen couldn't beat Jiang Haoran now. Moreover, Jiang Haoran wasn't a bad person. He was just too stubborn. So many people are watching. Even if you really killed him by accident, you have to give everyone an explanation. Jiang Haoran said in a low voice, Since you made a mistake, I'll give you a small punishment today. You have to be careful next time. A small punishment? What do you mean? Jiang Chen said in surprise. Boom. However, before Jiang Chen could react, Jiang Haoran struck out with his palm. The righteous qi in his palm was like a heavenly river. It directly suppressed Jiang Chen to the ground. At the same time, many earth thorns broke out and pierced through Jiang Chen's limbs with the radiance of the sword. I really can't beat him. Jiang Chen lay on the ground and secretly used a secret technique. However, he couldn't break free from the righteous qi in his body. It was like an indestructible mountain that pressed down on Jiang Chen's body. It made it difficult for him to breathe. Most importantly, Jiang Chen's limbs were pierced and his injuries couldn't be healed. Even his divine body and the power of the undying bird couldn't heal his injuries. What is going on? This idiot is too powerful, Jiang Chen complained in his heart. However, he still wore a smile on his face and asked, Fellow cultivator, are you okay now? Remember, don't do it again. Jiang Haoran's eyes turned serious as he said with a righteous expression, I'll break your limbs and suppress you here for 3 days. After 3 days, the righteous chains on your body will be broken and your injuries will be healed. After saying this, Jiang Haoran turned around and left. Jiang Chen immediately became anxious. Are you kidding me? Brother, so many people in the ninth city want to kill me, but you're going to suppress me here and leave me alone? Can't any random person come and end this king's life? Fellow cultivator, wait a minute. What if I'm dead? Who are you going to talk to? Jiang Chen yelled. His voice was hoarse due to his anxiety. You're right. Jiang Haoran walked to Jiang Chen's side and said, How about this? I'll stay with you for 3 days. Phew, that's good. Jiang Chen heaved a sigh of relief. However, he was extremely aggrieved. The dignified supreme, being Tian Chun, was suppressed by someone from the same generation as him. If this were to spread, it would be so embarrassing. However, when he thought of Jiang Haoran's cultivation and combat strength, Jiang Chun had to admit defeat. A person at the upper level of the Great Sage Realm was a monster. Jiang Chun was not wrong for being suppressed this time. If he had to blame someone, he could only blame Jiang Chen's cultivation for being too low. Jiang Haoran, this person's life is mine. 1 day later, Jiang Haoran was accompanying Jiang Chun when a bone-chilling voice came from afar. Jiang Chun glanced in the direction of the voice. His expression stiffened when he saw the person's appearance. The person was someone Jiang Chun was familiar with, Mu Xingyun, who possessed the Shadow Dao spirit. Currently, Mu Xingyun's cultivation had reached the lower level of the martial sage realm. The terrifying, murderous intent emitted from his body was suffocating. I've suppressed him here for 3 days, and only a day has passed. Jiang Haoran said in a serious tone, There's still 2 days left. After these 2 days, if it's a fair fight, I won't interfere. Mu Xingyun raised his eyebrows and let out a sigh. He seemed to be in a difficult position as he said, Forget it, I'll kill you too, so you won't be a hindrance. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.